All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics are Local, America's number one
Number one.
political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics or Local. So tonight, of course, you all know that coming up at 6 o'clock, because it's the first Friday of the month, first Friday of February, we're going to have coming up, of course, we're going to have Pastrami and Politics with our beloved brothers, Brother Rahman Muhammad and Alturrick Kenney. So when they come aboard, they'll tell you what they're going to be talking about. And then, of course, what's coming up after that, Brother Zaid?
Got us two special segments I'm really looking forward to. And of course, all of our segments are special. But Minneapolis has been hot. It's been like ground zero for
Yeah.
struggle around immigrant justice. The We have a clergy delegation from this area. Uh, Reverend Anya Samuel Michael and Ghana Hylton Imani, Ghana Imani Hylton, or part of a clergy delegation of some 600 people from the Universal Unitarian Church that did a 600-person solidarity mission to Minneapolis to stand in solidarity with the people resisting ICE there. They're going to talk about their trip, what they witnessed, what they participated in. After that, Adam Marshall, a young man who recently became a part of the People's Organization for Progress, has been amongst a number of folks who have been fixtures right here at Delaney Hall. It's one thing to talk about immigrant oppression here in Minneapolis, but you know what we're dealing with right here, right?
Yep.
And as all of the world was outraged about the killing of Renee Good and Alex Pretty, you had the killing of Keith Porter in Los Angeles, a black man who wasn't even an immigrant, and you had and dying in ICE custody right here in Newark at Delaney Hall. You had John Wilson Brutus, right? So
Mhm.
there's been a lot going on. There's a new the letter that some folks from inside were able to get out that lays out the conditions that people are going through there. It's going to be a hell of a conversation, one of many ongoing conversations to be sure. And then after that, we hope the great DJ Rhino rejoins us. He's been away from us for a minute and to give us all this what's up in the land of hip hop.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, we may take some exceptions if Rhino doesn't join us tonight. Uh, we've got on deck, man, a special that we're going to kick off that we're going to do every month as it relates to celebrating 100 years of Black history. Carter G. Woodson, 100 years of Black history. We're going to kick it off tonight, talking about two absolutely amazing Black people, um, Amina and Amiri Baraka.
Who's
Talk
going to do that?
Larry Ham and Brother Bashir Akinyele. We're going to talk Black.
Yes,
Mayor may pop in to talk about his parents.
good.
We're not talking politics, right? We're talking about who these people are. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And you can speak to that, Zaid. You know
No,
what I
I
mean?
will. You know I
You know,
will.
we're gonna talk about them. And I told Mitty same thing. We're gonna hit them up, but and I may tap into them if they want to pop in. We're talking about these particular folk, and we're talking about Black history, right? And so, but Larry's gonna come through because, as I remember hearing Amina say that Larry was like another son to her. Uh,
Yeah. They raised him. They raised him politically.
yeah,
He is
so
a Chunga by
yeah,
virtue of the Imamu Amiri Baraka.
yeah, and most people don't know. I can speak to Amiri when I was a
You grew
child.
up right up under that. That's right.
Yeah, I lived across the street from them, played house with the sisters, and he named me a Hulu, you know, uh,
Ah,
brave warrior, you know.
ah.
So we'll talk a little bit about that, man. But that's gonna come up in the 8:30 hour.
Right
So
on. All right.
make
That's a
sure
blessing.
everybody's tuned in because we're gonna talk about that in a whole nother way. I got to check on Rockin' them, man. I hope they got the link. I'm not sure what happened.
They should have. I mean, it went to everybody.
Yeah. So I don't I mean, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm gonna try to reach out for him. So you want to take over for a minute, Zach, talk about something while I
Well,
just put a call into.
I'll do that in this way. Several things. One, um, I spent this morning with Ray Lawrence Ham. Him and I rode over together for the memorial, the New York memorial of the late Claudette Colvin. And we've done 2 segments since this incredible woman passed. For those of you who have not been with us when we had those segments and may not recognize that name, 15 years old in the epic year that was 1955 on March 2nd, 15-year-old Claudette Colvin refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus at the risk of arrest, vicious racist police beating, and a potential rape and lynching. That's the world she lived in. But inspired by what she learned in what was called Negro History Week at her church. Well, this is a Black History moment for all of y'all to sip on, right? She said she felt Harriet Tubman on her right shoulder, holding her down, and Sojourner Truth, 2 incredible Black women who fought like hell to end slavery, on her left shoulder, holding her down. No, you not giving up that seat today, daughter. You're going to stand up by keeping your seat. And we're going to see where that takes us, because we're going to move this thing ahead and make some folks uncomfortable. Ms. Colvin passed away a few weeks ago. She returned to Alabama just several years ago. She lived much of her recent years right in New York City in the Bronx. And the street where she lived in the Bronx, she's got a street corner, Claudette Colvin Way, right? So she was appreciated wherever she has gone since she has, gotten recognition, albeit very late in her life. And our own Tamika Mallory was one of the guest speakers, as was Lawrence. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stayed the whole time. She wasn't like these politicians that, oh, yes, I've come here, I'm with you, I got to go. No, she stayed the whole time. This was at Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem.
Okay.
Same Abyssinian Baptist Church of Adam Clayton Powell and Calvin Butts and all those other, radical theologians that came through the Black church tradition in New York City. She was memorialized right there with her family. It was a beautiful, beautiful setting to be in.
What time? This was today?
It was this morning at 11 o'clock. Yes, sir.
Oh, nice, man. Nice.
So our new ancestor got her due. And Ademo, as you know, when we did have him on, had just come back from her actual homegoing in Alabama,
right?
And that was huge, So while they tried to invisibilize her when she was a child and much of her adult life, once the story really got out about who she was and what she did and why it's important, remember she was the first of 4 women to protest segregated busing in Montgomery before Rosa Parks did her well-known action on December 1st, 1955, would actually set off the Montgomery bus boycott. So we owe that incredible Black queen a lot, and she was treated as such this afternoon. So as we could, that's a good segue to our brothers coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, was it well attended, Zaid, by the way?
It was enough.
Okay.
It was enough. It was definitely enough.
Okay.
I mean, it was, early in the day, in the work day, all that, and the family, I think, wanted to make sure that certain people were there and like that. So, it wasn't filled to the rafters the way it was in Birmingham.
Okay.
It was voted with some real folk. Absolutely.
All right. Well, it looked like one of the hosts have showed up for.
I'm sorry, we late, man. I had a situation with my daughter, bro, so I had to deal with that situation.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then Tariq here bothering me, so.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
He's in the spot with you.
He up in Big Rock Deli trying to get some free stuff.
I know this.
Yeah. Well, he always talking about he ain't getting sandwiches, so you know.
Yeah, he eating the sandwich now.
Well, listen, Rock, this ain't our hour. This is yours, so we here to ride with you, brother.
Welcome everybody. I mean, I wanted to have a few discussions today. First, let's give some congratulations to Anya. You know what I'm saying? Winning the congressional seat in CD.
Did she finally win? They declared her?
I mean, they haven't declared it yet, but I mean,
who's ahead?
You have to do a lot to catch up with those votes. So you know, what I'm saying? Unless you got some. I mean, she up by 500 votes, so you would have to. I mean, I don't think that there's enough to overtake. I mean, you would have to be winning like 2-1 or something like that to overtake her. So I don't think that's gonna happen, but it might. I don't know. But listen, right now she's winning, and you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna give her early congratulations because I'm confident that she's gonna pull it out. At least I hope that she pulls it out because I think that she would do an excellent job in Congress. And so, you know, let's hope, you know, we got one of the good guys that won, you know. And, you know, it says a lot about the Democratic Party and the Democratic line in Essex County. I mean, the endorsed candidate came in third.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a very special day for, you know, the state of New Jersey, in fact, for the country, because it actually says boots on the ground means something. And I think progressive politics, progressive politics means something as well.
Hold on, we got to say peace to brother Alturrick. I mean, you in there.
You know he's late, so he just jumped in.
He just come up in here.
I'm so sorry about that. I'm here from Big Rock's Deli, you know.
I know that. You got to bring us something.
Yeah. Hey, Alturrick, Rock came on to you in there messing with them about them sandwiches, brother.
Hey, you got to have a real pastrami and politics conversation. It can't just be politics and no pastrami.
All right,
how the brothers doing?
I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate you guys. So I wanted to talk about the election. Obviously, you know, there's a lot happening throughout the country, and specifically what's happened in this congressional election. I mean, this is a big election. Boots on the ground, you know, meant something. And I think that, I mean, all of the candidates, you know, who ran on the Democratic side, you know, they were issue based. But I think that what Anna Lilia presented was a little different. I mean, Malinowski was a progressive. Brendan Gill had some progressive, you know, ideology. But I think the young lady Anna Lilia, who's seeped in progressive politics, and was able to galvanize outside support, has meant a lot for what's happening here in the state of New Jersey. So, you know, congratulations to everyone that ran, because running for elected office is a huge thing. But I think more importantly, you saw suburban Essex come out, and it seemed like they want issues. You know, they want issues. They want to support people who they believe can bring those issues to home. And you know, congratulations to the Democratic Party for having their best foot forward. So we'll see what happens, you know, in the general election.
Actually, I'll say this. I agree with you 100%, actually. But I would also go further to say that this represents another fresh dose of lightning and a reality check to the Democratic Party center, whatever the hell that means.
But you know what it also exposed?
Let's be one from the left. And I got to say this too.
Yeah.
Right? Two things very quickly. Roxbury, New Jersey. There is a Roxbury. We ain't talking about Boston. We ain't talking about the hood of Boston. Roxbury, New Jersey, has been targeted to be an ICE facility. Right? Anna Lilia was uniquely qualified and has been consistently over years attacking that issue. And then finally, he is the only candidate that did not bite that APAC money that kept people from not addressing the genocide in Gaza.
You know what's interesting? Hey, you know what's interesting? APAC probably helped her. You know, they did it.
Yeah. Well, that's the crazy part, right? They said that APAC was supporting Tanisha Way, and because of what they did against Malinowski, They folded them out and asked you. That's what put Aniello on top. I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm like you, Alturrick. I think it's more work and boots on the ground. I just think that people want something different. They're tired of being told who the candidate is, who the best person is. They want to hear from the candidates and see what they provide. And no one can question the work that Aniello has done over the years. I mean, she's been with me since my labor days, and she's always been standing strong with the people. And so, listen, I'm hoping that she pull it through. I'm sure she will pull it through. And you know what I'm saying? And it'll be better for Washington, D.C., because when you talk about a voice and on Congress, I promise you, she's going to be a voice to reckon with when she gets to D.C.
Looking forward to that.
You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, to me, it exposes something else, right? And that is the myth of a line, you know what I'm saying, that existed for years, right? I believe that what the line has historically done is scare people from challenging it. So if you got the Democratic line, people with resources or people that had organizations that probably wanted to challenge the line never did it because they thought that the line automatically would get them. But, you know, listen, the party apparatus went behind the county candidate, and the county candidate came in third in Essex County. It came in fourth overall in the district. So that's telling. That shows that if you have an organization, that if you have another way of being funded, and that you can get boots on the ground who really believe in you, that you can make change. I mean, you got to think about it, right? Aniello has support from organizations that generally would have backed the Democratic Party's choice.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so they went against the party for somebody that they thought was a better candidate for that position. It's not to knock any other candidate, by the way. I think any one of them would have been okay, if they would have been elected. But I just think that, you know, I supported Aniello because I believe in her. She was there for me all those years, and I think she's going to be great in Congress. You know, hopefully.
I'll add one more observation if I can. Essex County, Morris County are two of the wealthiest counties in the state of New Jersey. And this little brown girl, right, with this black husband and these black babies, right, with boots on the ground, wound up capturing the heart of both of those communities across those racial and class lines. Needed to be spoken to. And
you know,
power to people in that sense.
I think it's the true essence of what they say, power to the people, right? Like when people power means something, folks come out and they get involved in the elections. And I think, you know, what happened with the Baraka thing is interesting because people say, well, he is a polarizing candidate. No, when they went to disparage him, polarizing candidate. We don't believe his issues can travel statewide. And people in Essex may not be ready for it, but then he's shown that people actually want to hear what you're about. They want to hear the issues that you are fighting for, and they want to know that you have the ability to fight on behalf of working families. And I think that something that excited the Democratic base here in New Jersey is that you got to have somebody who's issue centered. And I think Annie Lilia, whose name has been in these circles for 20, 30 years, laboring, you know, for these issues that impacted working people. I mean, people realize that they want that type of representation in elected life. So, you know, congratulations, you know, whatever the outcome looks like, you know, I think it makes a big statement to where we go going forward.
I want the world to know there's I got a picture. Hopefully when she go to Congress, I'm gonna get it signed of me and Lilia being arrested at a protest, and we in the back of the bus in handcuffs, and I'm taking a selfie with us in the handcuff. So you know, I think that's the only selfie in handcuff. They forgot to take my phone.
That's a problem. That's a moment. That's something to say.
I'm
only doing this because Rockman, you don't put my picture up on the wall. Like I don't get any rec.
What is this guy talking about? Why is he doing Trump tonight, bro? What is this guy talking about? Like, does he need to be having a pat on the back? He need his head rubbed. That's for your wife. I mean, the other thing I wanted to talk about, man, is I think we up to 56 candidates running for elected office in the city of Newark? Is it
We can get to 100, Rock. I'm telling you, we can get to 100. Give us some more time. We can get to 100. Hey, let's put that out there. Anybody have a over and under 100 candidates? Can we do that?
I think we got 56 people running for office. I think 9 people for mayor, which is ridiculous to me. 24 so far for council at large. I think 7 in the South Ward, probably 7 in the Central now. We only got 1 in the East, so that tell you something right there. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, those people know how to come together. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I think we got 3 in the North, but, you know, that's just marginal. You know, for a Nebo in the North Ward, it's not really going to affect him. But to see what is happening in the local politics and the fact that so many people think that the only way they could contribute is by being an elected official, to me is just disturbing. It just shows how unorganized we are in this community, that we just can't get behind. And listen, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, if you don't want to run, that I think everybody have a right to run. So I don't want to say that, you know what I'm saying? I think, to me, I question people's ability to win. And I think that some people just put themselves out there knowing they're not going to win for attention or their grievances that they have. And most of it sounds personal to me because I don't really see any of them running on issues that they are talking about they're going to provide for the residents, other than the complaints or getting on social media and showing the video of a garbage can not being picked up. Or I think some people probably throw garbage out and they go out and take a video and say, "You haven't picked up my garbage." So I mean, like I'm talking about the candidates. You know what I'm saying? These people that's running for office who like to go out and just video and record. It just seems like, you know, what is the purpose of the candidacy, and what is the plan to victory? How can you win? And I just see a lot of them putting their name on the ballot because you only need 100 signatures now to be on the ballot, just to put their name on the ballot, you know. And I just don't see that that's purposeful in a democracy. I think that there should be a real plan or strategy behind how you think you're going to effectuate change, or, you know, what's at the end of the tunnel? What are you looking for? Because if you lose, what are you going to do? Wait another 4 years? Like, I mean, this is what, you know, I just don't get it. You know, it's just way too many people running for office this year. Way too many.
Yeah, so got a great point about the number of people who are running. And so one is it's a testament to, you know, how our democracy works, right? People get a chance to participate. People get a chance to, you know, to talk about whatever issue that they are feel like is relevant. Maybe there's a level of frustration to what's happening in, you know, in current elected life. And maybe they want to participate at some level. I just think that at times, like, I think now we have to be about issues, right? It can't just be about complaints. Like, we can't be, well, the snow removed, I want to run for council or mayor because the snow has been removed. We know that, right? Or we see that, or maybe it's happening at a certain process, but now what is your plan to make sure that the city that you believe in is better than the way you found it? And so, you know, I would love for us to have a more of an issue-based conversation about electoral politics. It can't simply be about, you know, how do I find a job, and that job, you know, is an elected official. And so, but I think that it's good to have a healthy democracy. I think it's good to have public debates about how we're able to change, you know, whatever, you know, city that or county or wherever we are. But I do think that I would love to see our elected officials participate in an issue-based campaign. That even if you lose, your ideas are out in the public, and it can be utilized by whoever is actually elected in that capacity. And so if you believe that garbage pickup and you have these sort of transformative ideas, and that's what's going to actually make the city more operational, then I think that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. But frustration campaigns typically doesn't work. It doesn't allow the city or whatever you plan to do to thrive. And I think that's the problem that I see with a lot of people participating in these spaces. But, listen, run your campaign. But I would love for you to do is also run your ideas, because the city, the state, our congressional district only thrives on quality ideas to be tested in the public marketplace. And once it's tested and utilized, and I think it can become a healthy democracy.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think all that you say is right and exact. However, I think from my perspective, I think that two things. It's plenty, right? The issue that we've had in Newark, as you all know, is that trying to get a large number of our people to vote. That is why we instituted having young people get involved early in politics. These people that are running, the question is that, and all of us, just about know every single one of these people. The question that comes up for me is what is the real platform that everyone's running on, right? And then the other thing is, I don't know. I mean, I hear all of these people, but are they all certified already? Have they been certified by? Do you know?
Well, I mean, well, you only need 100 signatures. So if you can't get 100 signatures, you shouldn't even be. You shouldn't even be out there talking about running. Right. So my assumption is that most of them will be certified. Now, rather folks will see it through. What I'm saying, to election day, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I made a post. I've been making this, like a lot of people asking me about my little funny post I've been making AI with my little pickle that I got, Pickle Rock running. But I'm really doing it because, really, it's satire based on what's going on. You know what I'm saying? That anybody can just come and throw their hands, like more than half of these people I've never even heard of.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about even on the social media platform complaining. You know what I'm saying? More than half of them I've never even heard of. And so, I mean, I made a post the other day where I was, acting as the campaign manager for my little character I made, and saying that, you need message, organization, and money to even consider running. And most of these folks don't have any one of the three. And the other, probably a little more than half of them only have one of the three, and that's a message. And the message is not even a good message. It's more of a critical message about what's not being done. I mean, this is a big city, folks. As much as we would like it to be perfect, there's always going to be issue in a city of over 320, an urban city of over 320,000 people. The mayor has never said that the city is perfect. What he said is the city has progress, and he's absolutely correct about that. But we got candidates that's running that won't even acknowledge the progress.
Yeah.
And to me, that's where your credibility as a candidate is in question to me. If you're saying that the tenure that the mayor has had, first, some of them is saying stuff, them running as council that they wouldn't even have power over, by the way. First of all, a council person is a legislature. The city of Newark is under the Faulkner Act, which means strong mayor, weak council. For those that's running, that's a quick educational lesson for them. Meaning that the mayor runs the town. The council is an advisory board. They deal with legislation, but the mayor runs the town. But we got council people talking about they're going to take cars for police officers, and this is going to stop when they become. That's not. None of that is going to happen if you won, because that's not the job of a council person. That's the mayor's job, his administration job, to make those decisions. But like I said, we have people who don't even acknowledge that there has been progress within the town. And the reason why they don't acknowledge it is because if you acknowledge there's progress, then people will say, well, what is the point of running if there's progress? Why don't you just work with the individual who progresses? But it's like, if it ain't, so if it ain't, then I want to see the person there And to me, that's not going to get you. That's not going to get you votes.
Yeah, so I think the campaign of fear has to stop, right? And so, like, you have to actually acknowledge that there's progress happening in order for you to be a serious, honest candidate. You can say that I want to run for elected office, but also witness this growth of the city of Newark. I remember we were walking downtown, and I looked at all of the things that has happened, in my lifetime that I thought Newark would never have, right? And I grew up in Georgia King Village. I grew up in the city, and I never thought that people would actually want to come to the city of Newark and actually grow their business, want to move their families here, and want to keep their families in the city of Newark, right? And so, like, if you can't acknowledge the progress under somebody else's administration, whether you were involved or not, then you're being dishonest about what you see around you. You're actually discrediting the work that real people put together. Like, there are legitimate, real people who actually built some of the buildings in this city that you're trying to gain votes from, but you're denying their contribution to this city. And I think part of what's happened is that that people are campaigning and saying that they can do better, but without recognizing what has happened. Right? We're literally sitting a couple of feet away from ShopRite, and there was in University Heights neighborhood, right? People don't want to say, well, before so-and-so was here, Science Park wasn't possible. But when Sharp came here, Sharp James was able to create a process where Science Park was possible. Or we built on the University Heights concept. Or if you keep going down the street, you go to Newark, off of 16th Return Boulevard, and say that there's housing in that neighborhood, or behind it there's housing next to West Kenney. People are afraid to say that there's development happening in the city of Newark because they believe it undermines their ability to run for elected office. You don't have to do that. You can actually say we recognize progress, but we can actually do more if that more is possible. But as Rahaman said, people are afraid to say what a council person can do because they're not clear, or they're afraid to say what the limitations of a council person or a mayor is able to do. And that's the problem. That's the other part about elected life. You got to know civics. You have to have the ability to know what a council is able to do, what the Faulkner Act allows you to do, what a legislator is allowed to do. And I think a lot of times people are running for elected life, running for mayor when they're running for the wrong position. And so, I think that a lot of people are getting involved. But I think organization from the beginning has to happen. And when you develop your concept around organization, the organization and the concept that you're running on far exceed the individual. I'm sorry, I got messages coming through.
No, the thing is, though, Alex, is that one of the things you said was the civics. We don't really have that conversation, right? Even in school, to really talk about educating young people around civics. So when you got all of these people who are running for office, and we say that they don't have a basic understanding of how the government works, well, most of that is true because they're running based on an issue, right, that they may not be happy with, i.e., let's say garbage pickup, i.e., let's say snow pickup, right? And so therefore they think, oh, I can be, the council person or the council person at large, or even the mayor, right? And then for most of them, and I said this to you yesterday, Rock, a lot of people elect to run in our city based on personality, right? And it has more to do with what's happening with them personally as opposed to what's happening governmentally, right? And so therefore, I think we've got to begin to have broader discussions in my mind, because we need to have big conversations based around getting things done, and we're not doing that, right? So you got over 30-some people who are running in the campaign, and I don't, I won't venture to say I know all of these people. I know of them. Do I know all of their politics? No, not necessarily. But I've talked to a lot of these people online and offline. And so, I don't think that until we're properly educating people around politics around political engagement or around that we're really going to get a group of people really running for the right reason. Now, I'm not going to say that's everybody that's running, because there are one or two people who are legitimate, who are doing some excellent work in their own right. But I think it comes down to education. And the problem is that, most people don't want to do it. And one of the things you said, Rock, I can remember being an undergrad, and I remember having a political science. He said, politics is about two things. It's about name recognition, and it's about money. Right? And if you don't have those, it's difficult for you to really get yourself and your ideas into the public sphere. And I remember having Congressman Payne explain that to me about when he ran, and talked about how he didn't have the money when he ran, and that was one of the reasons why he ran on Cory Booker's ticket. Purely it was for that particular reason. And so I think that we come to all of that, but the question is are we going to really have any serious debate around real ideas in this particular city election? I don't know.
Well, I mean, the debates is going to be grievance debates, right? Talking about people and trying to bash people and not acknowledging any of the good work that's being done, and that's where the problem lies. And that's to me where I get a little frustrated when because I've been in politics over 30 years, so I would love to, because listen, one day seats are going to change in the city. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be there one day. That's just the reality of the matter is. And we have to hope that there are going to be some young folks coming up behind us, or some folks coming up behind us with some ideas that's going to be able to step in position. And you're right. There is some folks that I think are legitimate candidates that running for that at-large seat. There's no question in my mind. There's a few on there that I think that's some legitimate some candidates. And so I do think that they will. Those few that you're talking about will have a decent debate on the when it's time for the campaign. But unfortunately, most of it is going to be a circus, right? Because most of the folks that are putting them is just is going to be bash. You know what I'm saying? You corrupt, you're a thief. You don't do, nothing is acknowledged about anything that we do in the city. I just posted a video the other day because I don't think that we do this enough, of a young lady that was in a summer youth program that we had our CDL course, who's now a truck driver, and she's now on TikTok showing her life as a 24-year-old truck driver. And she came to through the youth department. They saying there's some noise. It's like, I don't know where somebody says some noise in the background.
Do the best you can.
It might be in my deli, because I'm in the deli. Let me move. Y'all go ahead and talk. I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna go in my office.
Yeah. So
Yeah. To rock. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying that Rock is right. Wouldn't it be great though, Alturrick and Zaid? Wouldn't it be great if we had some real serious, healthy debates in the city based around real ideals, right? Wouldn't that be great? Because I think that at the end of the day, there are a couple of really, really good people who are running, right? Especially at the at-large level, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
right. But wouldn't that be great if we could get to that? But we got to get rid of the background noise, right? With all of these other people who want to just create, personal. Wouldn't that be great?
I was thinking about, remember Like It Is, when you actually had to be on the show and you had to present your ideas.
Yes,
and you had about 30 minutes to an hour to present your ideas. You were asked and answer serious questions, right? Or the Tony Browder show, where you had to ask and answer serious questions. And I think that right now we're in the idea gap where the question becomes, if you're in elected life, what are your ideas? And how is those ideas are going to be utilized to make the city better? Like, yes, we know grievances, right? So we can destroy, like, say, for example, I want to become a surrogate for the county of Essex because Alturrick is doing a horrible job. That's fine. All right, now I'm no longer in this office. What are you going to do to make the position better in the 5 years that you're in elected life? How would you expand the services? How would you be able to provide the sort of competency that comes to the career that you choose to participate in? And I think that's kind of what's happening. Like, you have a lot of like at-large candidates who unfortunately want to cannibalize one another because when it comes to like talking about quality ideas, they got to fight for space to start lobbying or responding to like grievances against one another or grievances against the city, rather than talk about, okay, so if that person wasn't running for elected life, what would you do in the 4 years you have to be in the municipal council, whether it's an at-large or a ward seat? And if you have that opportunity, how would the city thrive under your leadership or working with other people in leadership? Like, you can't blame an individual for mayhem, but then take away credit for some of the things that have happened in a very creative way. Like, you got to be able to have a conversation about what will your contribution look like. And I think that we have to have those sort of conversations about, well, what does it mean to be in the legislative office? Like, the legislative capacity could be council, commissioner, assembly, Senate, or Congress, right? What does it mean to be an administrator? How much time do you have? What do you control? What can you add value to? What are some of the ideas that could bring, a thriving city together? So, for example, people are saying, well, we're afraid of gentrification, but we also want to make sure that we have a city that has a mixed income. We also want to have a city that has ratables in which we can pay for the things that we need to have. People say, well, we don't want pilots or we don't want tax abatements. Well, how do we get projects that are that a city can control? And also, how can a city make sure that we have low income housing for our residents? It's like those sort of conversations that we have to have. And that comes with civic education. And then once you're able to understand how a system runs, then you can say, well, what's my contribution looks like, whether it's an elected life or a supporting person for elected life. Or, you know what, if the person's doing a great job, right? If Raz is doing a great job, you don't actually have to run for mayor. You can say, you know what, let's support him and his vision and add my own spin to it, making sure that the city becomes much more thriving system.
Right. Well, that's the problem, though, right? So these folks don't want to admit that there's progress, because admitting that there's progress means that people would question, why are you running? Why don't you work with the individual that's currently there? And I think we find it harder to do that based on, whatever the issues are, personalities, differences, whatever it may be. I think that there is going to be a change of the guard, and you have to be serious now for people to take you serious when that change occurs. And I just think that a lot of these folks, they play around with it. I see some of the posts and some of the stuff that people say on the internet. It seems like they're running once again an internet campaign, and I'm just like they don't have a clue. And for those that say, well, that used to be y'all, and I'm not, and I agree that I do think in some respects that we were that at one point in time. But the difference with us was we didn't make things up. We didn't just take what we hear and ran with it and made it seem like it's the gospel. Somebody could get up here and call and accuse me of all sort of things, and then you'll have somebody post up on the thing as if it's true because somebody else said it with no proof, by the way. Just because somebody else said it, no different when I left the union, when there were people around talking about I took $5 million from the union. That if that was true, we couldn't even do business in the union because the union didn't collect dues enough for you to steal $5 million. But you had people running with that type of narrative. I still got people to this day that run with a narrative talking about, oh yeah, Rock stole money from the union. Well, y'all should report it to the feds, because it's clear that when folks was out there saying that and they did an investigation, they didn't find that. They actually listened to the nonsense that was going on and went and did an investigation for 2 years looking for something, and didn't find anything. But you didn't have people come and say, we were wrong about Rock. You know what I'm saying? He never took anything from the union. You still got clowns out there that be saying to my mother or my sisters or whomever, yeah, he stole money from you. I didn't take a dime from the union. But this is what people say, and they take it as the gospel without any proof. And then you want people to take you serious. You know what I'm saying? With you know what I'm saying, your candidacy or your campaign. No, listen, go out here like we did when we were younger, run on some issues, run on a vision because we had a vision. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and by the way, we had an organization. We were all together. You know what I'm saying? We actually worked together. Raz Baraka had 300 volunteers, unpaid. I want to be very clear. Let me repeat that to y'all. Raz Baraka in 1998. Matter of fact, I would say every campaign he run, but I'm talking about the one I know when I first started. We had 300 volunteers in his campaign. Nobody got paid when he ran for Central Ward Council. He had a message. He had an organization. And we were raising money for him to run for the organization. And we were all behind him. And we stayed behind him until he won in office because we understood this is the person we support, that he was going to be our leader. Because I was a leader in my own respect. I didn't have to choose that route if I didn't want to. There were people asking me to run for office. But I told them, no, Raz is the individual who we choose to follow. That if you want me to be in leadership, then you have to support the individual that I support in that leadership. And that's Raz Baraka. And so we stood behind Raz Baraka until he got in office. On his first run, when he was appointed at large, when he won as Southwood Council person, and when he won as mayor. The whole team from back in 1998. There were some that started in 94. I met him on the campaign trail in 94, but I wasn't in the campaign. But in 98, I was in the campaign. There were people from 98 that was still with him that didn't turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to run myself, or I'm going to do this myself. They stuck with him as a leader until he won. That's what organization is. That's what organization is. And I don't see it's fragmented out here. These people are on their own.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, Rock? I can remember, like almost 12 years ago when the man came to the show when we were at Rutgers. And he came to the show and he said, at that time, he was the councilman. And he said, listen, and, he said, I will run only if nobody else is going to run. Right? That's what he said. Right? That doesn't happen today. Right? There's no integrity in that. Right? There's no integrity in it. Now it's like nobody stops to see what the benefit is to the city. The mayor, he came and he said, listen, man, he said, if nobody else is going to run, he said, I'm going to run. And like you said, Rock, when you talk about 98 and all of us being with them and nobody was being paid, that was because all of us were engaged, right? Everybody was concerned about the city, right? And nobody was out there, banging each other in the head, saying crazy and insane things for bait click or, for people liking or watching your. We didn't do any of that. And the thing
we didn't have pages back then.
We didn't. I know. but also, if we had a beef though, Rock, I mean, most of us, we confronted each other, right?
Right. No question. No question.
So I think a lot of that is
no question.
And so all that Tariq is saying, the problem is that no, everybody think they know it all, Alturrick. They think they know it all. How can you teach somebody? Listen, me and John both have degrees in political science, both of us, right? And so if we tell somebody, that we know this or we know that, that's like me going to Rock and saying, with all the experience that Rock has, not only in politics, but what he knows about unions, and I'm going to tell him, oh, Rock, here's what I know about. No, I'm smart enough to sit there and say, Rock, can you explain some of this to me? Let me get some. People don't do that today, brother. Right? You know how many people out there arguing with the man on the street, right? When he try to explain to them certain things, they think they know it all. What you going to do about that, man? Right? All we can do, Alturrick, is
the other thing is
and try to teach, man.
The other thing is easier to on the other side to look on the other side when you're not in office to say all these things that you're going to do. People kill me when they try to compare this administration to the James administration. And I'm always saying, y'all act like I wasn't in the James administration. I was part of the James administration. We had issues in the James administration. We used to go to council and talk mess about things in the James administration. So to turn around and pretend like we had this perfect city, that there was no crime and schools were taken over under the James administration, by the way, that there was no crime, that education was high, that there wasn't poverty, that's just nonsense. You know what I'm saying? This city has had issues since I've been aware and been involved in politics, and I've been aware since I was 22, involved since I was 22 years old, and we've had issues all along. And so to pretend that there is this one person that has the solution to fix it, no, because a lot of this is about individuals being able to be accountable and responsible also as citizens of an urban city. You know what I'm saying? The mayor needs help. He needs help with the citizens. We don't have all the answers. You know what I'm saying? That's just not reality. He needs help. He needs the citizens of the city to assist him with making sure.
So when the idea came out, when I become mayor, you become mayor, which means simply is that I am not responsible for the entirety of the system that's going on. You also have responsibility and obligation as well. And I think that statement itself is powerful because it doesn't say government has all the solutions. It never is, and it never has been that government will have all the solutions to the everyday problems that happen in any thriving municipality. And I think that part of what, I'm sorry. Is it me? Rockman, can you hear me?
No, we hear you.
I'm sorry. So so I remember when I was coming up, I think there was three things that I remember Sharp James told me. He said you have to have the message, money, and a movement, right? The 3 M's. And I think a lot of times people get involved in electoral politics because, like Rockman stated earlier, they only have one of the three. And if you don't have one of the three, you create an organization. You find out what the ideas are. You knock on doors and talk with people where they are. You don't have to inflame the emotions of the masses. You can find out exactly how to able to correct solutions. But the other part of it, Ed, what Ed said earlier, is that, you know what? I remember someone said to me, Tariq, won't you run for Southwark Council? Why? I have a great Southwark councilman. His name is Pat Council. Well, Alturrick, won't you run for this office? Why? We have a great assembly person or a Senate person. We don't have to actually run for every office that becomes available. Sometimes we just have to support the people that's actually there and then make sure we're honest with them in a way where we're constructive, we can be supportive, but we also can say, hey, this is what's happening, and how we can able to get those ideas done. Because again, when I become mayor, you become mayor, or when I become Congress, you become Congress, whatever that thing might look like. And I think that's not happening. I think a lot of times that social media has done a great job. It has made everybody an individual where everybody can run off, everybody can be someone because you have access to social media. But the problem is that people believe that the social media makes them qualify for whatever office that they want to run for. And it's different. They say, well, I have a Facebook account with 5,000 followers. Well, that doesn't mean that you're ready for elected life. Right? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much at all.
Right. I mean, that's Alturrick, all that you said is correct, right and exact. That's why I was saying people who get likes and get clicks, that's what they think, man. I've got over 5,000 followers on my personal page. I don't think I can run for office and just automatically think that those 5,000 people will go vote for me.
Exactly.
And I might not have any brilliant ideas. I don't know. I mean, maybe if I go and say Rahaman is going to endorse me, maybe those 5 million people might support me, or 5,000 people. I don't know. Rock, we ought to try that.
And I'm running for Facebook.
Rock, I'm joining the conversation late. I don't know if you guys spoke about county committee, but have we looked at county? I mean, because nobody ever talks about county committee, and sometimes county committee becomes very, very important. Do we know, are there a lot of vacancies in the county committee seats?
I'm sure there's a lot of vacancies in the county committee seat. Not only is there a lot of vacancies, but there are a lot of people that's in there that should not be there. That just holding spaces just to fill in the space. So I don't, you know what I'm saying? So I'm almost certain that there are many vacancies in the county committee seats. And I do think that people should start there in the county committee seat. But the problem is that we jumped the gun, you know what I'm saying, from not starting from the bottom. I started as a maintenance man, and how people always talk about, oh, I want what you got, Rob. Well, I started as a maintenance man. So if you want to start there, you know what I'm saying? Then that's, you know, then that's great. You know, it took time to work my way up to where I'm at today. But a lot of people think, you know, especially in the social media age, people believe that there's this instantaneous success that occurred because there are some people that get lucky on the internet, like the young lady Romeo, who put a jingle together and then overnight. You know, but that don't happen for most of us. You know, for most of us, we got to work our way up. And a lot of people don't believe that they have to work their way up. And we think that starting in politics mean that we just we don't even volunteer for anything. We're not out there part of no organization. There's nothing, there's nobody supporting us. Like I said, it is a committee of one. And like Tariq said, it's because they got a Facebook page and a social media account that they have access with a few followers that they think all of a sudden now these followers mean votes. Or mean that they're going to get elected officers, and let's be clear, it has been proven that that's not the case. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So we don't have to wait till this year to prove that if that's true or not. Past elections, since we've had social media, should have already proved to you that that's not the case. That you have to get out here and work for it. The mayor lost for 16 years in a row. Yeah, until he won. Because he was appointed in 2005. There wasn't an election. He lost in 2006. He didn't win an election until 2010, and we started in 1994. In 1994, and he kept going. And so we have these people who believe because they're a committee of one, because they got social media followers, they can come on the internet and just accuse you of all types of things that's untrue. That somehow is going to translate into votes. And they've done nothing on the ground. They've done nothing with helping people. They say they've helped people. I don't know who they've helped, but they say they have. You know what I'm saying? I've had programs that I've had for youth program. We got gym rec centers all over the city. Have any of them volunteered? Have any of them been out there in the community? Have they went to Newark Emergency Services and volunteered? What they do is go get a video and tape a homeless person and say, this is a mass problem in the city of Newark, as if the mayor is not working on the homeless problem. He is working on it, but he can't instantaneously stop homelessness. Nor could you if you were elected, by the way. And that's why. You know what I'm saying? Thing that people need to understand. Nor can you if you were elected. You can't instantaneously stop all these things that you complain about. There has to be work. The mayor is working on all these things. He's working on a better DBW department. He's working on better snow removal. He's working on homeless. He's working on affordable housing. He's working on a lot of things. Oh, guess what? By the time he leaves, those things still won't be solved. Somebody else is still going to have to come and work on them. But this is what people understand when they're running for office. Somebody got to come pick up the baton and say, okay, Mayor Baraka, you brought it this far. I'm going to take it to the next level. Those are the people that should be running.
But that ain't how they thinking, Rock.
That's not how they think.
Yeah. Right. So listen, man, we've come to the end of the show.
Ed, before you let them go, Alturrick, thank you for being in Orange this week for Black History Month, teaching about preparation, which is one of my favorite topics that you talk about, how do people prepare their estates. So thank you for being in Orange.
I gotta say this before I get offline. 11.4. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hold on a second, Alturrick. I'm coming over to your house to get that bean pie. Let's just be clear. Because with Rock,
We got big rocks.
because with Rock, you know, he always complained there ain't no pie.
Wait, what happened to Alturrick? Where you go?
He like, you know, Rock like to say all the time, ain't no pies. Sorry, man, ain't no pies. No, I'm coming
Well,
over.
as soon as you said you come to get that pie, Alturrick jumped off.
You know, yeah, he know that.
There you go.
What did he say?
That's the best pie in our state, brother. You know?
It is. I endorse it. As Rockman's commercial said, it takes hours to make these pies. You got billions of people waiting outside for these hour pies, right, Rock?
We have a line of folks ready for the bean pie.
Hey, well, listen, you know, Rock already know the sandwich is really the dessert. And Rock, I endorse that message. And tell Mom
Hey,
You got the QR code.
We're in the second month of the year. Have we gotten our sandwiches yet? Are we ready for March for the sandwiches to be here while we're listening to the radio show?
I told you,
You know, Rockman, he don't give anything out for free. You know, Rock, he don't do anything for free.
that's not true. Big Rock Deli.
You can't give me a promotional sample.
You know how much stuff we be giving out for free here? That's too much. I'm going broke giving free stuff out.
Black History Month. Happy Black History Month to everybody. Just want to make sure I say that before I get offline. Happy Black History Month. Make sure you read something, do something, serve somebody, you know, educate someone, educate yourself. But happy Black History Month to everybody that's out there. Celebrate your history. Stay woke.
Yep.
Yes,
Hey, Rock, we're going to give you the last word for the show.
Listen, man, I wish everybody a happy Black History Month. I want to thank All Politics Local once again for having us, and we'll see you next month.
Yep. We'll see y'all next month.
And the hell with Trump. With that,
That's right. Carnegie whistled out the hell with Trump down, right?
All right, y'all. That was, you know, of course, politics and pastrami and politics with our brothers Alturrick and, of course, the one and only Brother Rockman. So we appreciate our brothers.
Thank you very much.
All right, y'all. So, Zaid, we've got your other guests in the background. We held them up a little bit. So let's bring them in, and you know, we appreciate them for staying with us.
There's Reverend Anya, there's Ghana, and who else? There's somebody else is in the background. Who else is that?
That's
Ghana, you're good. Y'all are good. Y'all supposed to be right there. You're fine. It just says there's another body somewhere in the background. I don't have my hand on the controls. I ain't tripping. Right? Yeah. I got my people on. That's what we need. There goes somebody. Right? Oh, Adam, you're early.
Oh,
Adam, we can come back to you in a little while. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Adam's the next segment. He's got that's a load.
So those are the two people you have in the background, Zai.
Okay. All right. So here we go.
And there's someone here, but we don't see their picture. Is that who you're looking for?
No, Adam was
That's Adam as well.
Yeah, that's Adam. Yeah, Adam's on too early. Adam
Okay. So those are the two guests you have back there. I don't see a third one.
We're good now.
Okay.
Right. Minneapolis has been ground zero for the invasion of our communities by the brown shirts, according to one of my favorite elders. And so much has happened in just a few weeks in that incredible city. Renee Good, Alex Prenti, people having their homes, the doors knocked over and blown off and all kinds of stuff. Just, you know, it's really incredible stuff. The attack of an entire people, you know, the racist charges at Minneapolis' Somali community. Yeah, so much has happened in just a few weeks. The madness of this White House and the aggression of his shock troops that are called ICE agents. Uh, in the midst of that, uh, there was a call by the Unitarian Universalist church movement to send some 600 people from all quarters of the country to do their own solidarity as witnesses and participants in all that important work there. And we're proud to have Reverend Anya Samuel, Michael back in Ghana, Imani Hylton back, both of whom participated in that sojourn, and I'm going to use that language of our ancestors, to be a part of that very important solidarity share. So we wanted to give our audience a local appreciation for what is going on in Minneapolis. And hopefully next week we'll have some folks from Minneapolis on that, give you, you can take this even to another place. I want to welcome you both back. You were both here some weeks ago, and we had a conversation about the How House
Yes.
in Montclair. We're glad to have you back. Glad to have you back safe, too, because it has been quite dangerous. Renee Good is no longer here.
Yes.
Our company is no longer here. People have been harmed irreparably by virtue of some of the violence that has come forward by this racist agenda of the national government, unfortunately. So we wanted to hear from y'all. Tell us about the sojourn, the delegation. Tell us about your witness. Tell us about why it's important that if you chose to be a part of that sojourn, and what is it that you want all of us to what takeaways do you want all of us to make sure that we have based on your sojourn and your travel?
Mm-hmm. Glad to. Ghana, would you like me to kick it off?
Please do.
All right. Well, I'd like to say that it was an honor for me to be able to travel to Minneapolis with 2 seminarians from our congregation. We were able to take care of one another and also help one another through some fears, of course. I remember when the call went out for clergy to travel to Minneapolis, it felt like it was a few moments after Renee Good was murdered. And so the commitment that was made by people across the country to say, yes, I will be there, I will resist, I will bear witness, was a commitment that was made through fear, not after fear, but through fear. So I don't want to take too much time. I know one of the things that I want to share, though, is that I think the most powerful pieces that Ghana and I can offer are the moments that we had that really speak to us of how Minneapolis was a testimony itself to the harm that this sort of an authoritarianism can create. And I personally want to share that I want to tell you the stories that were not on the news, the pieces that we saw, the people that we met. Mm-hmm. So one of the most important things I need to offer, though, is that we were cared for there by a group of leaders called March Minneapolis, who is a group of leaders, interfaith leaders who've been coming together for a long time now. They started coming together for issues of racial justice, and they've kept coming together for finding ways to heal their community through all kinds of harm that have moved through their streets over time. So this is a group of folks who have been doing effective organizing and resistance work for almost 20 years now. So wow. They cared 20 years. They cared for us well in showing us that resistance must be trained. They have been doing trained work for resistance with one another for years now, and they have practiced this work, and they have built incredible communities of accountability. One of the most powerful moments I had when we were learning from them before we were sent out on the streets, an organizer came in who was committed that morning to speak to us and to give us a better sense of what we would experience on the streets of Minneapolis. And when she got there, she apologized for being late. And she said, all of us are balancing the work of mutual aid with the work of direct resistance. And this morning I was engaged in mutual aid. I was out delivering breast milk to a baby whose mom has been detained. And I believe the entire room went silent and still as we witnessed the reality, the incredible harm, the pain of a community through that one testimony. It all became just achingly clear.
Yep. And for me, there were so many layers to this. So first of all, even though Unitarian Universalists answered the call in a very strong way, and we were personally proud of that, because that's where we're coming from, it was interfaith, as Reverend Anya mentioned earlier. So there were rabbi and people, Baptists, and just people from all traditions, all faith traditions. They had a Buddhist speak. They had indigenous people speak. So the way in which March organized this in, like, I believe it was 8 days. It was about a week. They organized it in a week. Was just nothing short of a miracle. So we were vetted. They made sure that people were coming for the right reasons and understanding what their roles were going to be once we got there. So we were there for 2 days. We had the first day, we had a meeting, just training and getting to know what some of the things we were going to do. And then our next assignment was ICE patrols in the streets, in the neighborhoods. So we were paired up and buddied up and checking on the neighbors, checking on businesses. That was one of my favorite parts, because speaking to the business owners and the people on the street about what they had witnessed and what they had been through, and how grateful they were that people from outside were coming in to stand with them, was really touching. For me, that made the whole trip. And then the next day, there were 2 specific areas that we were assigned to. One was a early morning, 10 a.m. At the airport, clergy only protest. So as a seminarian, I was invited to be a part of that, because Reverend Anya is the minister. I am the seminarian, just to clarify that. But we were invited to participate in that. And that was where there were like the 500 clergy only. And there were clergy who were arrested. So my second moment for me as a new seminarian, as a person who stepped up to this as a student and as a seminarian, to see my colleagues, my classmates, shout out to Holly, who was arrested. She's in one of my classes, and seeing her on her knees waiting to be arrested. It's just something that just was so challenging. But it was already vetted. It was already arranged. They already had, by dinner, she was out. They were all out. So again, the organized mayhem of it all. Everything was organized. At a moment's notice, they may have needed to change something or shift something. But at a moment's notice, we had to be ready and pay attention and just listen and be willing to do this or that. So there were a lot of last minute choices that had to be made, but people were arrested at that event. It was a peaceful event. Even the arrests were peaceful, but it was heartbreaking to watch. And then the last piece that we joined in was a larger march where the estimates are around 50,000 people were there, where anyone was able to go to that march.
Was that the day of the general strike?
Yes.
Yes,
There you
that was
go.
Friday, the day of the general strike. Exactly. So we, Reverend Anya and I, and another seminarian, Chris, we attended that event. So now all the clergy were mixed in, and it was beautiful to see all of those people marching. It was also a larger risk for us as a group. We were within that group, but it was not all clergy. And when it's all clergy, there can be a different type of police presence or reaction than if it's a large gathering of just all kinds of people. But that was about 2.5 hours, and ended at, I believe it's called the Target Center that they have. And correct me if I'm wrong, Reverend Anya. And then they had a large event there. So those were the 3 pieces that we did at that time. And so each one was larger than the last, and each had a different kind of risk factor in each of those events. So it was really something to be with the people, not only the people of Minneapolis who are standing so strong and proud, and I'm sure are tired. And it was negative 14 degrees. I don't ever want to be anywhere that's negative 14 degrees ever again in my life before wind chill factor. That's just not the weather that the good Lord intended. But
Maybe he did. He was just built it for other people.
I want to shout out Ghana Hylton's incredible resilience. There were some times as we were marching and moving through this work where I'm pretty sure she was hitting frostbite. It was the point where her hands were frozen, so they were painful, and we were still persisting and out on the streets.
And
Reverend Anya, long time no see. How are you? I'm actually Becky Dogger's cousin. I haven't seen you in a while.
Happy almost birthday to Becky. She's just about to turn.
Well, I tagged her to make sure she's listening to you. So, and Ghana, negative 14. Y'all must have brought this weather back, because I heard Governor Hochul say it's going to be like, with the wind chill factor this weekend, it's going to be like negative 40. So, but reflecting, so many of, for so many reasons, as we move through this time, it can't help you but thinking of civil rights movement, of what was going on during that time. So having had the opportunity to minister, like you had the opportunity to minister, did you at any point think of, because you just said clergy was locked up, did you think about the whole civil rights movement? If so, how? And specifically, letters from a Birmingham jail. Because that's when, Ghana, you said that, that's the first thing I thought of and everything. And how we are resemblance of those times right now.
Actually, I would like to know Freedom Summer 64. And I'll say why later, but y'all respond to the question.
So I'll just say this quickly, and then Reverend Anya, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But I feel like we're in a loop, because my grandparents would tell me about the certain things that they went through. And I'm like, wow, this is terrible. My grandfather told me he saw people hanging from the tree. My grandmother told, there were certain things, you get arrested, thrown into jail if you drink from that water fountain, etc. And then there was some things that improved, and they had kids, and then their kids marched in, with Martin Luther King, and there was the shooting of Kennedy and all those things, and different things happened. And, so many political and social acts that are catalysts for something, and then a little change comes, and then we kind of have a rise. So it's this rise and fall. None of this feels new. It might be the first time I'm seeing someone I know get arrested. but none of this feels new. It feels like America is stuck in a loop of its own creation. And you cannot help but to think of the things that came before us. But the question is, why do we keep returning to this point? That's the bigger question for me. Reverend Anya?
Thanks, Ghana. I keep being reminded of what King wrote out so brilliantly in Where Do We Go From Here, where he said that if America ever actually gets close to a real democracy, we're going to start creating our own native form of fascism to fight back against it.
Right on.
King's words.
His last book, by the way, 104. If you never read Dr. King, he gave you plenty to read.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we are there.
And while they're here, I'll put a little promo in there. Please join St. James AME in the month of March.
That's where to go from here. And Harry Ham is leading the book conversation. That's an excellent.
Yeah, we'll be reading that book together, and we'll be doing it. So please join us in the month of March, and announcements will be going out. Zaid, you had a question?
No, I was just going to put a pin in this. Historically, I liken this unto, I call it Freedom Winter 2026, likened unto Freedom Summer 1964. What was happening then?
Mm-hmm.
There was a big push for the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Bill.
Mm-hmm.
The most violent territories around voter registration were Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama. And there was a joint call between the Congress of Racial Equality Corps and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, to bring a sea of volunteers, preferably white volunteers, right, into the South, into those territories to serve as buffers to hopefully offset some of the direct violence that those Black folks trying to register to vote had no protections from. Of course, we knew, just like we lost Renee Good and Alex Penny, there's some white folks that were casualties back in '64. It was an epic effort, and it really, it was a battle for the identity of this country and how, this whole diseased circular reality, is using your language, Ghana, around an obsession with whiteness, right? Really put some of everybody's lives on a line that really believed in this thing called democracy. And unfortunately, this country has only had a few minutes in its 2 centuries where there's been democratic permission for some inclusion.
Yep.
I mean, 64, 65, that's my lifetime. Right? That's my lifetime, okay? Right? And we had a wave in the 70s where we, actually tried to, appreciate some of these benefits from that struggle. And as soon as the 80s came in, right, there's this beginning of a strong pushback, to try and roll back anything that will anyway resemble to that. And it just gradually over that period of that generation, we see the emergence of Project 2025, and here they come.
Yep.
And they had been working steadily for that. And what was the parallel in the century before? It was Reconstruction, an epic war. It was a civil war, right, to end slavery and to save the Union, ultimately won by our ancestors, by the way, right? It was only a minute called Reconstruction, where those newly freed captive Africans could have a moment of freedom that was overthrown by violence. Jim Crow terror, and that terror became the order of the day for decades. So we've only had a few minutes of this thing of it, enjoying a little sample of freedom.
Yes.
Right? And we had to fight like hell for those few minutes. And here we are in a moment now where we are up against this really backward energy, to try to preserve what's left of that. And hopefully, I would dare say, break through in a way within the soul of this country, right? To move towards a place where we genuinely can make those brave, inclusive experiments with democracy, finally become the norm.
Yes.
This is Black History Month, under attack because with the George Floyd summer that we had, and I don't want to talk
Yes.
about Marshall doing the talking, right? That summer of protest saw young Black women, primarily in the leadership, leading Black, brown, and white folks, all stripes, all ages, all over this country. And the sight of all these young white folks, young kids, with these Black and brown women out front is something that some folks couldn't wrap their heads around. But that's the space that needs to grow and become normalized and become the basis of a real democracy. As Dr. King would say, the coming of the beloved community.
Yes.
Yes.
And Reverend Anya, the Unitarian Church, and I spent a lot of time at the on Cleveland Street, and every time I'm walking through the doors is because you guys are on the right side of doing, whether it's trying to educate about voting, standing up for immigrants, have always been. But what is it? One of the reasons that we're here today is because what happened in November of 2024, just as many people came out and cast, about an equally amount of people stayed home. And what is it that I always hear the term, this great experiment of democracy, but to get people to understand that they have to participate in this process if they want to continue to enjoy this. It's just not something you could sit home and observe. It's definitely not that. And, I know that one of the missions of Unitarian is that you educate and educate. I'm almost at the point, and that's, where I know in some places, if you don't vote, you can be in a lot of trouble. And while it's not punitive not to vote, it is punitive not to vote. You know what I'm saying? It feels very punitive right now.
That's for sure. I would say, but Zaid, I need your help here because I cannot remember the author's name that we heard last night, who wrote that incredible book about protest.
Marshall.
Say it again.
Protesting.
Marshall.
Yes, and one of the
United States.
One of the things that she said that stuck with me, obviously more than her name, but I'm going to work on that. One of the things that stuck with me is she said, we got too many freedom freeloaders. We got too many people that are just hanging on to the freedom that has been given without fighting for the freedom that we still need. And I would say that one of the things that Unitarian Universalists do is that we refuse to take the Bible or honestly any scripture literally, but we take it all seriously. And one of the most powerful commitments in scripture is that you better love your neighbor. And if you can't love your neighbor, it is obvious that you do not love God. So, and what is democracy? It is a system where we at best be loving on our neighbors. And if we're not, it fails for us and for everyone.
There is a respect and care inherent in Unitarian Universalism that drew me to it. And it's so important that people understand that this is we don't have a creed. But we do have values, and we take these values very seriously. So when we take care of each other, it is because we are used to congregationally taking care of each other with multiple people in our congregation who came from different faith bases, different cultural bases, different religious bases. Right? So we already understand that the person next to you might be Jewish, the person in front of you might be Muslim, and the person behind you might be atheist. And they all believe the same thing, that as community, as humans, we should take care of one another.
Yeah.
And that's so important to me. I don't want to love you because you a Baptist and I'm a Baptist. That's not real care. I do not want to think about you and run out and get you because you're Jewish and I'm Jewish. I want to think about you because I'm a human and you're a human, and there's something going down that's going to hurt humans, right? Now,
Right.
that's not to say that I don't look at my communities. Oh, I definitely look out for my sister girls because I'm a sister and I know how being a woman is in this world. Oh, I definitely look out for my Black people because I know how it is, the struggle for Black people and what that meant years and years back and back again. I know what that meant, and where there might be some extra care that I need to put and attention I need to put, because this world is not going to do that when it comes to Black folks. So of course that's in there, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just like I would think that if we were in a public space and somebody yelled fire, you gonna grab up your child, just like I'm gonna grab up my child. Of course we're gonna go to our own. If we came with our children, we're gonna be looking out for our children first. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna see another child over there that's nervous and gonna grab them up too on the way out. I'm gonna try to get as many as I can, right? So the understanding in UU is about community. And that's really where this journey for us was so important, because this was an opportunity for us to walk the walk of what we're talking about, not just in our congregation, not just in Montclair, not just in New Jersey yet, but in a state that's negative 14 degrees that we have to fly to and stand with you and say, you are my brothers, sisters, you are my community.
Yep.
You are my community, and I'm here for you just as if I lived next door to you, because I care what's going on here. And the secret, to talk a little bit about what you mentioned, Donna, the secret to it is they are brilliant at dividing us.
Yep.
They have worked at this for decades, and they are brilliant and succeeding at dividing us into small, ineffective groups. Voting is one pool where we can come together and be of one accord. It is not the only. And in our thinking, they make us think that we can only do one thing. Marching's no good. That doesn't mean anything. It is effective. It is effective as a tool for gathering folks and then saying, oh, you're doing this too? Let's connect behind the scenes and take this further. Voting, oh, that doesn't mean anything. It is important. So they have chipped away at the efficiency of all of these tools that we have in order to get the results that they're getting now.
Yeah.
So it's so important that we remind people all of these things are important. You cannot build a house with a hammer. You can't. And a hammer is a good tool. You cannot build a house with it. You need a drill, a saw, some screws, all of these things. So it's really important that we understand that that's what our community is. To build this house, we're going to need all the laborers, all the tools, all the equipment in order to have a strong standing house. And that's what's important. When people complain about this thing doesn't work or that thing doesn't work, well, maybe it's not working because you're not in here helping it to work. Maybe you need to be, maybe you're the missing piece. Maybe the voting didn't work because you sat out the last 2 elections.
Let me ask you a heavy question, both of you. Y'all don't come out the sky and y'all didn't go by yourselves. You have families, right? What did this mean for your families? You know, because you went to a you weren't walking, albeit with all of our peaceful intent, albeit of our spiritual discipline and practice and training and preparation. You're walking into a war zone. Make it plain. You're walking into a war zone. What did that do? How were you able to manage that very basic human variable of keeping the family together as you dare to do that?
Ghana, you got more to say on this than I do. I'm gonna be quick and speak to the family of the congregation. The family of the congregation celebrated us, sent us away not only with words of a prayer, care, love, support, encouragement, but also they sent us away with money. They made sure that we would be paid for to take this trip, that we were going on their behalf. So they put their wallets where their hearts were. And a lot of them also held our hands and cried a little bit when we got back because they were scared for us.
Yeah. That's real stuff. Come on, man. Come on, baby. Talk to me.
So first I want to say that as both a congregational member of Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair, and a seminarian, I consider Reverend Anya and Reverend Scott my spiritual leaders and my mentors. So they decided Reverend Anya's going. I'm like, okay. So first of all, when you know you're going with someone who is like Reverend Anya, you feel some type of relief. Like, okay, I'm going with Reverend Anya. Okay. That being said, I am a Black woman with a blackity black husband and some Black children.
Panama blackity black too. That's right.
Okay, my name is Ghana Imani. I'm blackity black.
That's right.
And my husband, big shout out to Will Hylton. He did this, not the news that he wanted to hear.
No,
that his Black wife was about to go out there. He didn't care how I was dressed, clergy or not. My skin is what people see first. So there was a great concern there. And I will just say that when I answered the call to go into seminary, these types of things were already on the list. They were already on my mind. This is what part of the job is, right? You're not going in just to preach or be, chaplain or whatever it is. These are the things that I knew would come up. So for me, it was just a matter of when. But for my family to be confronted with the reality of it and seeing how it had gone for others, it was definitely a hard pill to swallow. But the important thing in relationships, whatever relationships you are in life, is to give people space and time. You can't push something like this. But once he understood that this is the journey that his wife had chosen, not just for this trip, but for this lifetime. And we have been step in agreement with these things for this lifetime. We're a partnership. We're together. Then it was okay. And all he could do was just know that I would make the best steps I could to be safe and effective. Not just effective, but safe and effective. So I had to do all of those things and make sure I told him what I was doing, reached out when I could, kept them abreast of how we were doing and things of those nature. My friends, shout out to Monifa Bandele. My friends didn't hear from me for a few hours and they were on it. They had the hotline calling Will Hylton to see, we haven't heard from Ghana. We heard there was this problem. What's going on? And the hotline got back. She's okay, this and that. So it's good to have community that love you enough to think about you and be worried about you. This is the work that we must do. We must, in some way, shape, or form, put ourselves out there. Some people do it on social media, get fired when people are killed and they comment about it. There are people who've lost their jobs and their livelihoods. There's people who've lost their apartments. They may not have been marching, but they did something to speak out, whether it was on a award ceremony where they said something, or social media, or whatever way they taught a lesson in a class and got fired. So I'm not the only one. Reverend Anya is not the only one. You know, we're putting ourselves out there in multiple ways where we are at risk.
How about the kids? How do you explain that to the kids? How'd they respond?
I only told the kid in my house. I didn't tell the kids not in my house. The amount of worry that I felt I might put on someone in college studying didn't feel fair. And I had a husband who would move accordingly should he need to. But I told them after, and they were very proud of me. But I only spoke to the person living in the house with us. And that was hard. That was hard. We're a very close family, the five of us. And it was not to hide it. It was to protect them temporarily, to let me see how things were going. But again, I sent everything to Will Hylton that I absolutely could. Pictures, locations, everything. So, you know, it was not easy, but as Reverend Anya said, we were well cared for when we got there. I mean, we were in pods, and she and I were not in the same pod. They was like getting pods. So I was in the BIPOC pod where there was people of color. That was my pod. And I was in, and they made you give your government name, your contact, to your emergency contact, if you were on any meds, if you were like, we had to give everything so that if we got sidetracked or something happened, you know, they would
Custody, they know what to do.
Yes, we had to put the phone number in Minneapolis. That was the phone number for all of the clergy. We drew it in marker on our skin, so that any of us, because we don't know that number, but so that if we had to use that number, we had it on our skin. So there were things that were put in place where I knew they were not playing. They were not playing about Ghana Hylton. They were not playing about Reverend Anya Sammler Michael. Like, they were on top of it for 500 people.
That's like triage type work. You hear about the spirit of the people in Minnesota. That's something they say. It's a very special place. You know, like they talk about like, for instance, people that are in domestic violence situations. That place is a place of refuge. Did you, I'm sure you did, because I hear you saying it, that you can just feel that warmness. And even in the interviews that we've seen of people, of how, you know, when we heard like Renee Good's family or Alex Preddy's family, that something about Minnesota, it's like a place that is a very special place. You know, it's very warm in spite of the cold.
Absolutely. You felt the warmness in their hearts and souls, even despite the cold. And that's why that walking through the neighborhoods was my favorite part, and speaking to the business owners and the people who were on the street, which was not many. It was a very desolate time and place. So,
and I'd say,
go ahead. Go ahead, Anya. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to give an example of the dichotomy of the warmness and the coldness, or the desolation. So we went out to eat one night, and it was hard to find food there because there were a lot of places that were closed, and they were closed because folks had been picked up. They were closed to protect the employees that they could protect. And we found a restaurant that was open, and we noticed that as we went in, the door got open for us and closed behind us. And I didn't make sense of this until we left, because as we were leaving, the door got open for us again and locked behind us. And we weren't the last ones leaving. We realized that that's what they had to do to make sure that they were only letting people in that were there to eat, and they were keeping ICE out, because you can't have it's a public space, a restaurant. So ICE could walk in if the door's open.
And they had been doing that.
But they'd have to take the door off to be able to get in. And that is just one more step. And so they're trying to make sure that they're doing the best they can for the people that are working there and the people that are eating there. So that's the desolation and how the community was standing up for their rights and resisting. And then the other piece of this is that the Somali community in Minneapolis was absolutely incredible. At the protests on the street corners, we would meet folks who would just do a brief prayer as we walked by, just saying, thank you for being here. And then at the protests, the Somali community was serving tea. We heard that we never got any, but we heard that there were sambusas oftentimes at rallies and at protests. So the care that was showed across every border that could have been set up between people, the care was shared.
Absolutely.
A lot has happened even since you left, right? She was attacked. Child was snatched up and with his bunny ears, and the embarrassment and the protesters forced a minor retreat that's supposed to be taking place. What are your impressions about how things are since you left, and what is the conversation your faith group is having about ways to continue to demonstrate solidarity?
And this is when they're supposed to be toning down, right?
We'll see.
Yep.
Well, I'll let Reverend Anya finish this out, and I'll just say that we have had training since then in our congregation. We will continue to do so. We got to keep our pressure on 200%. There is no letting up. There is just diverse ways of continuing the pressure, because it's Minnesota today and it's going to be New Jersey and New York tomorrow. So if we don't help them, it's going to be no one to help us.
In fact, we're gonna have a local segment right after y'all on Delaney Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and Delaney Hall needs us right now. And I just want to lift up that there have been lives lost at Delaney Hall as well.
That's right.
It's Mr. Brutus who was lost at Delaney Hall. That we can't forget his name either. There's one of the things that I've been hearing is that those who are opposing the protests and opposing those who are engaging in resistance is that they're just trying to create chaos. And I think one of the things that we really need to do is keep standing up for the fact that we are not creating chaos. We are refusing to legitimize harm. Mm-hmm. And we are forcing a culture of accountability where there is none.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that a culture of accountability is required now everywhere. And we need to be vigilant in all corners.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And especially, I'm sorry, Reverend Anya, to your words, especially when the leader is making it so, or trying to create an atmosphere of normalcy to not be accountable. You know, he's just, it was brought up earlier about the post that was reposted that you just would expect nobody in leadership and would Ghana said people who would have, you have employees that if they had made a post like that, they wouldn't have a job at the end of the day. So it's horrible that for young people, you almost have to go back and say, well, yeah, I know somebody's in leadership. No, that's not right. You know, you're going back and get all these mixed messages are horrible. So
why don't you ask our guests the ritual question? They've been
I'm sure you're familiar with this question. You know, this is a hip hop political show. So when you're doing the work, whether you're doing it on a nice beach with 90 degrees or with a snow background and -14 weather, is there a hip hop artist, individual or group that you listen to help you keep inspired when you're doing the work that you do?
There's a lot, but the song that brings me the most peace in these types of situations is Most Def, My Umi Says. So I need to hear that.
Me too.
When I'm in chaos, when I'm not feeling safe because I'm in a an ice state or a protest march. That is what's going on in my head to keep me level.
Yep. So I'm moved by the idea that we need joy for resistance, and for sustained resistance, we must have joy again and again throughout our days and our lives and our communities. And so I go back to my youth. And I came up with the Wu-Tang Clan. That was my listening. So I go back, and especially to RZA, and RZA also brings a powerful philosophy that centers on nonviolence, but also a commitment to communities of accountability.
That's right.
Well, thank you. I know for me, when you was talking about writing on your arm, Ghana, I think about. And Zaid, you talked about Freedom Summers. I can't think of the young lady. Maybe she was from Detroit. I can't remember. She talks about when one of the interviews she did later on about how prepared they had to be to get on those buses for Freedom Summer, and
Yeah.
they were filling out their last will, and things like that. So I know it's going to probably come back to you at different times of, what you had to do, but even what you were in that moment, and how, like I said, doing things like that is kind of, you have, our brain kind of protects us. So that's going to always have you coming back to the thought that you had to do something like that. So thank you very much for standing in the stead of all of us and experiencing that. And please continue to come back and tell us more as, more comes back to you. So thank you. Zaid?
You got it. You got it. I'm very proud of both of you. In full transparency, Ghana's my niece, right? And her mother was one of my heroes. Now Ghana's one of my heroes, right? I'm proud of each of you. You got an open mic here, you know that, right? This is the time that we're in, and I think in our own ways and based on our own makeup, most of us who are here and who understand that we're already prepared for this. We were made for this moment, and let us honor it as we need to, as we're called to, and as our children pray that we do. Right?
Thanks, Pop. I love you.
Yes, ma'am. Love you too. Love you more.
Ice out of Minneapolis, ice out of the nation.
Right. Ice out for good. And y'all been blooded. Chat has been hot. My girl Josie.
And I'll tell you, God, they was on Main Street at Foreman Mills congregating yesterday, so they're here. So they've been here, but yeah.
They've been here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
Let me get it. Mr. Adam has come, right? The first man on the planet, right?
Hello, everyone.
Adam, I don't know how much you heard of the last segment, right? But that was the perfect segue, I think, for what we're going to talk about here. As you know, we've got a lot of attention about Delaney Hall when our elected leadership came under fire. But the conditions, the reality, the harshness, the inhumane treatment, the persistence of that abuse continues. And there have been people who have, without the glare of media attention and whatnot, have been consistently being a presence of mutual aid support, of protest support, of humanitarian support, right there day in and day out since all of that has happened. And we definitely lifted up, and in this last conversation, the loss that we had then, John Wilson Brutus. Recently, there was a letter that was eked out, thanks to what's left of the Underground Railroad of our time, that was eked out, that said a lot about the mistreatment around procedure and processing of our folks there, right? Adam Marshall, who's one of the younger members of the People's Organization for Progress, right? We need a bunch of Adams, right, for that org, because they're getting older, right? Has been a part of that presence back and forth over the last few weeks. So, Adam, first I want you to respond to what you heard and what you know about Minneapolis and what that demands of us that folks are actually addressing right here at Delaney Hall.
Absolutely. I'd like to start by, saying how grateful I am and honored to be to follow two great warriors in social justice who, no doubt, endured terrible weather. I'm sure a lot of scary situations. So to Seminary in Hylton and Reverend Anya, I do want to say much respect. And as to the conditions at Delaney, you framed it perfectly, Baba Zaid. It's really been quite difficult on our end too. The weather isn't, at least it's better by about 10 to 20 degrees from where they are, but Delaney Hall has an interesting microclimate, being right next to the water in Doremus Avenue. So it once the sun goes down, the visiting families are suffering. There's no other way to say it.
It's cold. Tell us about some of the groups. Now you're there. We know who you represent, right? But tell us about some of the groups who have been there, who've been doing the work, who are part of this collective, right? That has emerged, that are there back and forth trying to aid those families and advocate for those on the inside.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge coalition of just a lot of faith groups, other political organizations, and people of every faith group. Some of the big heavy hitters on site are COSECHA, Pax Christi, New Jersey, First Friends, AFSC, the American Friends Service Committee, Action 21, New Jersey Peace Action, Peace Works, DSA, POP, of course, Temple Ner Tamid, the Catholic Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace. And if I try and give the whole list, I'm going to offend someone because I've left them out, but
well, I had you do that for a reason, because some of those names on that list that you did call out are going to resonate with somebody in this audience who's going to look for a place to jump in this. John Lewis said, you see a good fight, jump in it. And he was nonviolent. It meant something else to me. Right? But he was nonviolent. We want people to have clear spaces, places, and people to turn to when they want to get down. So that's that breadth of that diverse character of those participants that matters. That absolutely matters. So it's good that you named them. And we apologize. I'll take responsibility for who you didn't remember, because it's really not about, lifting up the organizers for themselves, but as being resources for the people who need help and for people who need to become a part of the help. Right? That's what solidarity looks like.
Absolutely.
Well, man, now, Adam, talk to me on a personal and a humane level. You're a young man, a vet, right? And you're seeing we got folks coming into our community who, I don't know that they brought the sense of honor to the uniforms that they're wearing that you brought to the uniform that you wore. What does this mean to you personally that got you right in the thick of this?
Oh, it's been a wild journey, and I'd be lying to you if I told you I was consistently honorable throughout my life. I mean, there was a time where hook, line, and sinker, I took the lie of what America meant, and I to quote Smedley Butler, I was a gangster for capitalism, and I deeply regret that. I'm lucky insofar as I never fired my rifle in anger at another human being, but I was still part of a system that killed over 100,000 lives in Iraq, and I never participated in the Afghanistan campaign. But I mean, I was still supporting my country throughout that time. That guilt really stayed with me for a while, and to expiate that, after I left the military in 2018, I did humanitarian mine action. I was clearing, unexploded ordnance, bombs, mines, things like that in places like Kosovo, Guam, the Aleutian Islands, Kingdom of Jordan, and Jordan, I'll highlight in particular. That's where this is from. That made me see things so differently, because I came into contact with the Azraq refugee camp, and I saw people that were displaced by essentially United States actions in Iraq, in Syria, in Palestine, It was deeply moving and emotional, and yeah, I in seeing the effects of foreign policy abroad, I've come to the conclusion that peace is the way, and that racism, imperialism, and fascism have to be fought wherever they are.
Wow. I want to put a pin in you lifting up Smedley Butler, because that's a name that many may not know. Smedley Butler was a top general in the U.S. military in the early days of the 20th century, who became disillusioned with what he was doing, and he was good at it. He was really a top-notch soldier of the highest order, for whatever that means. And he put together a book called War is a Racket. Right? That book is over 100 years old now. It is essential to understand the emergence of this thing called U.S. imperialism as we now know it. So I just wanted to put a pin in that and commend you. You know, I don't know how often you get a chance to tell your own story, right? And we have our own stories. You know, people come and they see you, right? But they don't see what brought you to us, right? So I'm glad you shared that. That's a lot to share. Now,
and Adam, you said Adam is prior military.
Yes, you didn't hear what he said. Yes.
No, I wanted you to say that a little, because Adam,
by the way, too, Adam.
Yeah,
said,
Adam, if you remember the basic training and the big, breakdown to build you back up, and kind of juxtapose that to when Pete had that meeting with all the generals. And if the room, as they were sitting there, and they probably, I just could imagine, because those 6 weeks, while you're learning uniform code of military justice and how it's not about Adam or Donna, it's everything about that uniform, and you decrease as the uniform increase, and how under this leadership, it has been completely opposite, So I only could imagine when they sat there and and I'm going to say there are always people who are just, like Pete had said, but I know I can remember reading Colin Powell's book and how he broke down life and leadership and what it's about. But the military is kind of sort of like one of the places where people really overall decrease, and it's more about representing, and so that we protect the people and things, and those ideas. So to see somebody become in this position, it's horrible. And to see what they're doing and how this is being fought against, the armed services going out to states, and they believe that they can do it in all of our states, is something that I don't know. Do you think that these young soldiers are very challenging what they're doing, and that do you believe that some of them are really having a hard time doing it overall?
Oh, definitely. They're probably experiencing all kinds of moral questions. And having been in those kinds of problems myself,
Mm-hmm.
the people that try to do the right thing are far from rewarded. I remember even dealing with, things like sexual harassment, because I was an officer in my time. And, when I tried to punish, certain soldiers who were perpetrators in that sort of stuff, I found that the command would sometimes protect them. It was the same thing when I found an issue of racism that had affected one of my soldiers that had gone to a bar in Columbus, Georgia, next to Fort Benning. It was literally an explicit racist attack against him, and I tried to execute according to the letter of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and for some reason, the commanders had no appetite for pursuing it, let's say. Just a lot of little moral injuries like that tell the soldier that has any mind towards justice that if you can try to fight, but it's going to hurt really badly. And that being said, it is still worth the fight. I actually have something I'd like to highlight right now on that specific issue, which is the GI rights hotline. I have the number. It's 1-877-447-4487. And, if you are handed an illegal order, this hotline, they can tell you a little bit about your rights and discuss the process going forward. But that being said, a lot of people, it's no one wants to incur that level of harm against themselves for standing up. Some do. I think, we have to highlight the, the soldiers like CW4 Thompson, who ended the My Lai massacre. There are some people that will sometimes stand up to the evil that they see in their organization. It's not easy to do, though.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Thank you. And getting back to Delaney Hall, I know one of the early on, one of the articles, news article that had came out was about the families, and you spoke to when the sun goes down, coming to visit their loved ones or trying to find out what's going on, and they have them standing outside in the cold, and and it's almost like what we know is designed to discourage them from having loved ones come see them as well. And they stand out there long hours as well, waiting to see, and sometimes even turned away. Are you have any updates, or is there anything that's changed around that area? Is the process a little better?
The process has improved only by degrees. A lot of that I'm going to credit to the work of a lot of the activists in the area. Through a lot of intense conversations with Essex County and various politicians, we were able to have a tent put down, which we can actually heat and, serve as a kind of makeshift waiting area. Getting the Geo Guards to play along with that, to actually honor the usage of this waiting area is a challenge every day. There's no consistency. And yes, you correctly highlight how the conditions that they're forced to wait in are completely engineered and intentional towards making people feel uncomfortable ultimately in this country. I've seen people wait 5 hours or more out in the cold, and if it weren't for, again, the intervention of a lot of our volunteers who bring things like hand warmers, blankets, propane heaters, all sorts of warming beverages. I tell you, you would have seen quite a lot more in terms of frostbite, hypothermia, and all kinds of weather-related injuries. It's really costly in terms of resources and time to continually do what Geo Group could solve with one stroke of a pen. They have a indoor waiting area, a former gym in Delaney Hall, which could absolutely serve this purpose well. But because, as you correctly identify, this is a humiliation ritual and designed to cause harm, to cause injury, it seems they are not motivated to change.
Let me take a step back for a minute, Adam. But we have been mentioning John Wilson Brutus's name. But why don't you, from the front lines, tell everybody about John Wilson Brutus and what we're up against and trying to find out still about what happened. John Wilson Brutus died in custody at Delaney Hall shortly before the new year. Tell us about John Wilson Brutus.
Absolutely. On the 12th of December, 2025, bunch of the volunteers and I were, conducting regular visitor support operations, and we noticed an ambulance entered through the side at Delaney Hall. It must have been about 8 or 9 p.m. They went in through a different entrance, and we thought that was strange. We would later find out that would be the ambulance that carried his body away. He entered the country about 3 years ago through Texas, and he'd lived a very difficult life. He was down and out. He was living in Elizabeth, and he had difficulties with being unhoused. He was a man who needed help. In an ideal world, the $1.02 billion that was put towards funding this concentration camp in the backyard of Essex County would have been put towards better things, something like
Affordable
getting
housing.
services, housing, medicine, all of these things that would actually benefit us. But no, we have $1.02 billion to have a building ringed with barbed wire that routinely abuses the human rights of our Black and brown brothers and sisters, and others too, immigrants from all over the world.
We should put a pin in the fact that Jean was Haitian, and just as President has singled out the Somali community in Minneapolis, our Haitian family has been singled out quite a bit over the last several years in Essex and in Union County. Remember, Union County's got an ICE facility too. And out of his mouth is going to be a shift now to Ohio with a particular targeting of our Haitian families. And we are 100% toes down, 100% solidarity with our Haitian families. So that's important to appreciate. Now, I know the family has lawyered up, and they're moving in very guarded steps as a consequence. But I wanted to make sure that we lift him up and let everybody know that there are forces in place ready to respond and help that family when they're ready to be more vocal, should they choose to do so. I should say the same for Wally Bay, who was not an ICE victim, but the brown shirts and the mask of Newark undercovers, who was killed on as we were marching for Dr. King's birthday. I just want to put a pin in that. Now, coming forward now, what as in terms of the energy and the orientation of the collective of forces doing that work now, what do folks need? How does folks see growing the work, and how should folks take it upon themselves to get involved?
Absolutely. The first thing is collective care, and I love to start with this because it's something that literally anyone can do. The example I often give is that we have a nursing home full of people who knit hats and scarves all day just to keep our families warm. And so it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or 100 years old. We have literally everyone contributing what they can. Now for the actual on the ground type work, I recommend just coming times that there's volunteers present, which we do maintain vigils throughout the week.
Yes.
If you're interested in seeing the specific times, I recommend checking out Pax Christi NJ. They have an Instagram account that highlights all the major schedule things. On Sundays, we do religious services and other days as well. We've had representation from literally every faith community now, and if anyone at home is listening and is interested in having a spiritual type event, absolutely get in touch with us, and we'd be happy to have such an event at our space.
Awesome.
The next piece is witnessing. We've got I hope for a future in which there's some level of accountability for all this stuff. That maybe in the future there's something like a Nuremberg, and and all of these crimes against humanity will come to light. I say if you come down to the site, bring a notebook with you, bring a cell phone or something to record with, and hold on to it, because even after all of this, if previous genocides are a lesson of anything, it's that there's going to be a battle for information starting just a few years after all this. The people that were responsible are going to claim that this never happened, and we cannot let them say that. Yeah, that's third thing, of course, is the direct action, getting involved in the mutual aid, getting involved in the protests, getting involved in the campaigns for education and so forth. That's basically our whole mission. You mentioned the big G word. The big G word is genocide, and we've got a genocide that this country does not want to talk about, that is happening, that this country is financing tooth and nail. Right? How would you relate the tragedy of the ongoing genocide that is happening in Gaza to this behavior that we're seeing now in our streets with the brown shirts, as we call them in fascist language? Absolutely. Well, the connections are so deep. The one thing that you can look at is just the technology of it. L3 Harris, a company that has a headquarters in Clifton, New Jersey, they are the ones that create the surveillance technologies. For instance, the Aerostat blimp that is currently monitoring the U.S.-Mexico border. They've created the Stingray 2 series of cell tower spoofers, which literally capture all of your text messages and things like that. Yeah, and so that's the stuff they're engineering here at home. And meanwhile, abroad in Israel, L3 Harris has created the combat information centers for the Sa'ar 5 and Sa'ar 6 Israeli warships. Some of the ships that were used to intercept the Gaza aid flotilla. So that's just one company. As for Geo Group, G4S, etc., they Geo Group is the company that owns Delaney Hall. These companies take contracts abroad. I'm not sure of the specific ties to Israel, but in this class of defense contractors, prison contractors, just about all these facilities abroad are made by, if not the same companies, honestly, the same shareholders paying on these same companies. I'd love to uphold the great work of the American Friends Service Committee, who have compiled a comprehensive list of all of the defense contractors whose money goes into the Gaza genocide issue. I wish I had the website offhand, but it is a quick search away on that topic. We'll definitely lift it up. As we wind down, Adam, what are some of the essential takeaways that you want everybody to get from this conversation in this moment? Number one, come and see. 451 Doremus Avenue. When you see it for yourself, when you walk on that ground and you smell the air that's polluted by all of the industrial concerns that are around there, when you see the mountains of garbage because of the communal disinvestment that occurs in these industrial sacrifice zones. It's so obvious. When you stand on the driveway of Delaney Hall and you face to the east, you'll see immediately in front of you a petroleum, oil, and lubricants yard owned by Energy Transfer LLP, the same fools that are behind the Dakota Access Pipeline. If you look between the two tanks, you can see the Freedom Tower. There's no room for irony down there. Everything is completely on the nose. You get to see America for what it is.
Wow. Wow. Donna, you there? No, she stepped away.
No, I'm here. I'm right here. I'm listening, taking it all in.
Okay.
And I think about, that area down there has always been a challenge. I know at one point the workers at the county jail were protesting, just about the location. The area is a challenge, a challenging location, to have to be down there. And, depending which way the wind is blowing, because there's a lot of factories and things down there. So what you're breathing in has always been a question down there. So, and then your view, like you said, of the towers, that has to be interesting. So,
and in addition to that, and you use the language sacrifice zone, and that's very specific, pointed language. There's a great film that features one of my environmental justice daughters that I want folks to look at, called The Sacrifice Zone, that looks at that area and how that area has been intentionally been built to be and do all of the environmental harm that it has come to represent. And this is a country that builds prisons in sacrifice zones, right? So it's not an accident at all. The intentionality of this is very clear and very disgusting, and needs a whole lot of environmental justice love, to put it mildly, right? Now, you want to give Adam our ritual question. This is his first time with us, and it's not going to be the last. But Adam, we're very proud of you, son. I appreciate it.
So Adam, what I do want to say is, don't wait for an invite. If you have something that we need to know, please, by all means, reach out and say, hey, I have some information. Please, get the information to us. Also, I know you were saying that the work that you're doing, it costs, because I know we're in the middle of the winter season, and I know I used to buy the heat warmers and stuff for our firemen in our community. So if there's if people would like to, whether it's donate dollars or pick up those hand warmers and feet warmers and things like that, is there a number that they can get in contact with you to give you those supplies and or funds? How do you want people to do that?
We don't have a number yet, but
Okay.
One thing that I will say is that actually first time visiting, when you do, don't bring anything necessarily with you. We actually have kind of supply chains set up with some of our partner organizations, and we sometimes actually run into this is, I guess, literally a manifestation of the miracle of the loaves and fishes, is that there are some nights where we run into the opposite problem. We have essentially 2 sedans to pack everything out in, and we're just
too much. Okay.
Yeah. Which is a good thing, I mean, that's
exactly
that reflects good on a lot of people with a lot of heart. But yeah, just the first time you come, you don't necessarily have to bring anything. Just bring a heart that's ready to bear witness.
Okay. Thank you for that. Well, this is a hip hop political show. So when you're preparing to do the work that you do, well, just go down to Delaney Hall, or whatever other work that you're doing. Is there a hip hop artist or individual that you listen to that keeps you inspired?
I'm gonna use since we're talking about Haitian American families, I want to hold up Saul Williams and his amazing work. I think the song "Listed Demands" has that right kind of revolutionary fire, and yeah.
Okay. I was listening to Saul the other day talking about, I think, the state of America. He was talking about list of demands. Okay, well, we got that down. We'll let DJ Rhino know. And thank you for being here. And please don't be a stranger, Zaid.
You got it. You got it. You got it. Adam, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
be in touch. We'll be on the watch. This is the open door and a drum that we all use. So anytime anybody needs to get it out, we need to, we would love to bring some of the partner organizations. We'll bring them in. Let them tell their stories. Let them talk about their share, their contribution in this work, and let's grow that support, right? And ultimately, the call is we want ICE out for good, and we want Delaney shut down. We want to shut down.
Amen to that.
Your plan, right?
Ice out of New Jersey.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Right. Wow.
Peace, everyone. Happy Black History Month.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, we'll get ready for this next segment. Yeah, Demo's already here.
Hey. Hey, Chairman.
How you doing?
Great.
Where's Bashir? He didn't get in. He didn't jump in yet. Eddie Bashir's not here yet. Bashir ain't here.
Hey, Adam.
Hello,
Adam's
Chairman. How are you?
All right.
Yeah, Adam was representing. He was dropping it.
I know he was.
Yeah. We don't have Bashir yet, Ed.
I got to make sure he's not asleep. You know what I mean? Because sometimes he go home and fall asleep on us, man.
He's not resting, taking a power nap.
We had a powerful day, a couple of days ago. The flag raise.
Talk to Larry, and I'll be right back. I'll call him.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, Black History Month has been very busy. You just in Montclair. Was that the Montclair Museum that you in?
Library, Montclair Library.
Okay.
Yeah, with Dr. Gloria J. Brown Marshall.
Yes.
Who was
Brother Jones streamed it live for us.
Oh, okay. All right.
Brother Dumas.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she was previewing her book, A Protest History of the United States. And it was a good program. It was a great turnout. And this is the first time in a while we've done something in Montclair. We haven't done something in a long time in Montclair. So I was glad that we did it. And Gloria was great, and we had a good discussion. People said need to be a part 2, because it was
really a half hour program in terms of the two of y'all talking.
right.
No, that went quick.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it had to be. That was not enough time for anything. No.
No.
We had nice turnout. Montclair Pop, they activated.
They did. They got the people out. I was happy.
So listen, y'all. I just spoke to Bashir, so he's parking his car, so he's gonna pop in a minute. But listen, man, we want to start something, of course, for the whole month of December. 100 years of celebrating Black History Month, with Carter G. Woodson having started that, so that Black folks in America who had suffered, not only the parade of horrors from slavery, but the Jim Crow era, right, and the continuation of the Donald Trump era. With the backpedaling of our history, so that, as he put it, so that white people and white children feelings are not hurt by being told the absolute truth about what has occurred and what white folks have done to Black people. This is going to be the particular part of the show that we go forward for the rest of the month, being absolutely honest, right, with Black people. We're not going to sugarcoat it because it was a parade of horrors. And I think one of the things the mayor talked about at the flag raising yesterday, is that, whenever we're around other people, for some reason, we become apprehensive about talking about the history of Black people. He shared a story yesterday that he was at an event and they started to play the Black National Anthem, and that no one stood up. And he said that it wasn't until his wife, the First Lady, stood up, and then he stood up, and then everybody stood up, right?
Mhm.
So, in the fact that we don't honor ourselves. So we want to talk about, absolutely, about Carter G. Woodson, and of course, the book that he wrote that we all read that awakened a level of consciousness in us to call The Miseducation of the Negro.
Yes, sir.
The other piece we want to talk about is, as we move into that, is we want to talk about the two Black people in particular who sacrificed not only their lives but their families' lives in teaching Black folks their culture and teaching them about their identity and bringing Blackness to us. And the one thing I was saying to Kim today is that there was an era that I came up in, that Larry, you and Zaid also came up in. There was a time you walked around in Newark and somebody would ask you, what time is it, right? And you knew what your response needed to be because it was nation time.
It's nation time.
So we want to talk about those two wonderful people, Amiri and Amina Baraka. And we want to begin that by celebrating them as we go forward this month in Black History Month. And I know that you know them personally, Larry. I know that Zaid know them personally. I know that I know them personally. I don't know if you know them personally, Donna, right?
I do. I do.
Now, just like Adema was named, I was named, right? I don't talk about it, but when I was young, probably about 7 or 8, playing house with his daughters Vera and Wanda in the Spirit House, Amiri called me in the middle of the street one day and gave me a name. He called it a Hulu, and the name of Hulu meant brave warrior, right? And so I don't talk about that much, but I'm going to share that tonight. And
hold on to you definitely that.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, since I probably know him, I didn't know him, as long as you have known him, but I remember seeing him right across from the college, right on the side street, Washington. There was a jazz club there. Was it a jazz club? It was a little club right behind the bookstore. And I he was in there and they were playing jazz and he was doing spoken word. And he's always had this big presence, but he was always so humble when he, approached. And I remember I was like, Amiri, how can we get you? And I'm thinking of how to say it to get you to come to Orange, to do something like this in Orange. He was like, just ask. And, and my only regret is that I never asked, and I never followed up on it. But, something that was like, I thought that was going to be so, like, oh, I got to, busy. I can't. He was like, just ask, and I'm sure he would have made it happen. And he was just so humbling and very approachable. And I never forget that we were both born in October and just always. And I remember my brother Keith meeting him when he was at Rutgers, and he would always say that he wanted to ask, he had asked Amiri, I want to be more like you, I want to be a leader. What can I do? And Amiri was like, just read everything you can, just read. So he had encouraged, just make sure you read as often as possible to my older brother.
But Donna, we want to come back to all of that, but we want to start with Larry and have Larry kind of talk about, let's talk about Carter G. Woodson a little bit. And then let Larry open that up about Amina and Amiri. And the reason I say that is because I once heard Amina say, Larry, that you were like an additional son to her, right? And that is important to me because of two things, Larry. One is that we thank God you're still alive, right? And so therefore we don't need to tell your story. You're alive, you can tell it, right?
That's right.
I think that the other thing is, Larry, is that you on the front line, and most of us sometimes, and I won't say me, but most of us sort of forget that you still on the ground, right? And that what you do every day, with the People's Organization for Progress is not celebrated in the way that it ought to be celebrated by our people. I want to just share with y'all that Mitty just chimed in and just gave us a strong Black Power for celebrating.
right. All right.
So,
Yes,
Larry, I'm gonna let you set the stage, my brother, because you know you are family to them, and you're family to us. But to the Barakas, they recognize who you are. So I'm gonna let you get that started.
All right. Do you want me to start with Carter G. Woodson or?
And then let's go into the Black history of celebrating these two giants in our neighborhood, Amiri and Amina.
Right. Well, Carter G. Woodson certainly is the father of Black History Month. That's uncontested. What's very interesting is his history. His mother and father were born into slavery. His mother could read. His father couldn't read. And his father escaped from his master and became a scout for the Union Army. His mother was named Anna. His father was named James. Anna and James got married, and they had Carter Woodson. And he was born in West Virginia, born in 1875. And that goes to show you that a lot of this, in terms of the chronology, I mean, 100 years is a lot, but it's not a lot at the same time. So Carter Woodson was born in 1875. He worked in the coal mines of West Virginia.
Sure did.
A lot of people don't know that part. They know him as a historian, but there were some years between historian, and his beginning, and he worked as a coal miner, but eventually he was able to move from that and avail himself of some opportunities. He went to Berea College, he went to the University of Chicago, and he became the second Black person to get a PhD from Harvard University. The first person, of course, was W.E.B. Du Bois. Carter Woodson got his PhD from Harvard in 1912, his PhD in history. And not long after that, about 3 years after that, he established the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History in 1915. And the following year, he established the Journal of Negro History. And of course, both of them exist today under the name of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History and the Journal of African American History. We know Carter G. Woodson best, Ed, as you said, from the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, which was published in 1933. But there are some other books that Carter G. Woodson wrote that I just want to mention because he shouldn't be defined just by that one book. Very interesting. In 1924, he wrote the first study of free Black slave owners of 1830 in the United States. Did y'all hear that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
He wrote a study on Black people that owned slaves.
They exist.
Wow.
Wasn't a lot of them.
In the period. Yes, there was some. And we tend to forget that. We think all was over here and the other was over. No, there were a few Black people that owned slaves. He wrote The Education of the Negro Prior to 1861. He wrote A Century of Negro Migration. He wrote The History of the Negro Church in 1927. And of course, he wrote The Miseducation of the Negro in 1933. He establishes Negro History Week, the first one celebrated in Washington, D.C. in 1926. That's why this is the centennial of the celebration of Negro History Week. And without going into a long exposition, Negro, as many people can discern, Negro History Week evolved into Negro History Month, and that evolved into Black History Month. In the state of New Jersey, the state of New Jersey first recognized Black History Month in 1971, and that was put forward through a resolution passed in the Senate by State Senator Winona Lippman, who was the first Black woman state senator in the history of New Jersey. She was the one that issued the legislation that New Jersey recognized Black History Month, and it passed in the Senate, passed in the Assembly, and became the law in 1971. I knew Winona Lippman. It's funny because she had gotten elected just before I was appointed to the Newark Board of Education. I was appointed in 1971, and I think she started her first term in the Senate in 1971. The first time Black History Month is recognized in the United States, believe it or not, under President Gerald Ford. He issues the first presidential proclamation recognizing Black History Month in 1976. Now that's a short history, right?
I forgot about that. Thank you.
Huh?
I forgot about Ford 76. You're right.
Yes. But what people have to understand is in that really short synopsis, it really doesn't tell you all the struggle that went on. When Carter Woodson first put out the idea of Negro History Week, there wasn't a great reception to it. It wasn't widely lauded. I mean, it was lauded by some people who had consciousness. Certainly wasn't lauded by white racists, which were in control. So there wasn't a whole lot of support. That support built up over the years. And in many places, people had to fight to get to get their local school boards to recognize Black History Month. Now, I went through the Newark public school system, K through 12, 8 years at South 17th Street School, K through 8, and then 4 years at Arts High School. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't have one Black teacher until I went to Arts High. And, I didn't have that Black teacher until my junior year at Arts High School. There were so few Black teachers that there was an organization formed by a guy named Fred Means. He formed the ONE, the Organization of Negro Educators. And their mission was to get the Newark school system to hire more Black teachers and to promote more Black teachers to become Black administrators. So if we didn't have any Black teachers, we didn't have much Black history. I mean, as far as I know, there was no African-American history course at Arts High School. And I think one of our friends that we know, Sanford Williams, over at Weequahic High School, I think he probably was the first person to establish a recognized Black studies program for high schools in the city of Newark. We didn't have Black History Month. Like I was probably in the middle of elementary school, probably somewhere around 5th grade, 6th grade, when they recognized Crispus Attucks Week. Crispus Attucks Day. It wasn't even week, Crispus Attucks Day.
Right.
And then they had a Crispus Attucks Day parade, which became the which eventually became the Black Heritage Parade, that now it's the African American Heritage Parade. When I was a student at Arts High School, that's when I first came into contact with Amiri Baraka. But I had to pass his head before I met him in 1970. I had to pass his headquarters every day. His headquarters was on the corner of then High Street, which is now Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and Springfield Avenue. In fact, it was exactly where Cawley Hall, St. Benedict's Cawley Hall is now. And
Larry, do you remember the number of the building?
502 High Street.
502.
How could I forget?
That's how can we forget, right?
Yeah, how can we forget, right? And
what
I'm
was
telling you the truth.
what it was called?
I'm going to tell you the truth, Ed. I was not a politically active high school student until the very end, until my senior year. There were other students in my class that were much more politically active and much more politically aware than I was. But I had to take the number 1 bus or the number 25 bus every day to school. So I had to pass 502 High Street and see the brothers out there in their uniforms with their green dashikis on, black pants and black boots, you know, saying Habari Gani, you know, and I didn't know what to say back. You know, I didn't know Swahili. So Baraka was invited to speak at Arts High School. There were 2 teachers' strikes. One was in 1970, which was a short one, and then the longest teacher strike in the history of the United States was in 1971. During the first teacher strike, Baraka was invited to speak at Arts High School, but he wasn't invited to speak to an assembly. He was only invited to speak to the student council. I think they thought he was too dangerous, that he might, you remember, you know, 1970 was only 3 years after the uprising. So people were very much worried that there was going to be another uprising. So he spoke to the student government. Needless to say, I was extremely impressed by him. I had heard the black person speak like Amiri Baraka was speaking, you know, in 1970. And then most people know, I'm not going to tell that story, but most people know I ended up being appointed to the Board of Education at 17 on July 1st, 1971. That was after I led a walkout at Arts High School and a takeover of the Gateway Hotel, which is now the Doubletree Hotel. And in that takeover, Ken Gibson came to speak to us. And then after hearing our demands and everything, 3 months after that, he asked me to be a member of the school board, and I was sworn in on July 1st, 1971. The following month, August 1971, there was a brother that was in the Committee for a Unified Newark. His name was Cheo Majadi. That was his African name. Right. I believe his slave name, as we used to say, was Eric Dillard. And he was he was a martial arts specialist. He was, I don't know if you knew Majadi or not. Did you know Majadi?
I heard that.
You remember?
Yeah.
Okay. He was a martial arts specialist. And I'm serious. He was like a real martial arts specialist. And he came downtown one day. I was working for the mayor. Gibson gave me a little summer job, right? So when I was on my lunch break, he came downtown and he said to me, "Are you going to be a neo-colonial Negro and sell out your people? Or are you going to be in the Black Liberation movement?" And I was like, I want to be in the Black Liberation. I don't want to be a sellout, right? And he said, Imamu wants to meet with you. I said, Imamu? He said, yeah, Imamu wants to meet with you. And so he gave me the date, and it was in August of 1971 that I went up to the Hikalu Umoja. That was the real name for 502 High Street. 502 was the street address. And that's how the popular masses knew it, 502, right? But the African name was Hikalu Umoja, House of Unity. And right next to it, Baraka had a bookstore called Nyumba ya Ujamaa, which was the House of Cooperative Economics. That's where I brought my first Malcolm X book. I don't have it in front of me. I still have that copy. Oh, here it is. This is the Malcolm X book that I brought.
I still have
from Nyumba ya Ujamaa. You see the price?
That's the original
$1.65. You know that was 50 years ago, right?
Original cover.
$1.65. But I met with Baraka, and from that day, we became friends. and we became very close friends. And I was his ally and he was my ally, you know, because I was supporting the causes that he put forward, and he was defending me while I was on the Board of Education. Because from the day that I was appointed to my last day on the school board, I was attacked. I was always constantly, relentlessly under attack from the white racists. Bashir had invited me up to Weequahic High School to speak the flag raising that they had at Weequahic High School. And, you know, essentially my talk was about my role in helping students be able to bring the Black liberation flag to school, because, you know, people take it for granted now, but in the 1960s and 70s, students were being put out of school for bringing the red, black, and green flag to school, because people were saying we didn't have no flag. Wow. You know, that was actually a song. That's what caused Marcus Garvey to, that's one of the reasons Marcus Garvey developed the red, black, and green flag, because there was a song in 1920. It was one of the most popular songs in the United States. Everybody got a flag but the coon. That's the name of the song, with the word coon in it. And so Garvey, at the UNIA convention, I believe it was 1921, put forward the red, black, and green, and it was voted on at the United Negro Improvement Association National Convention at Madison Square Garden. So one night we were at a board meeting, right? We used to have so many students. We had a citywide student group called Newark Student Federation. And we used to bring hundreds of students to the school board meeting. The school board used to be where the police station is on Green Street, 31 Green Street. And they had a little auditorium in the second floor. I would bring so many students that they would have to move the board meeting to the city council chambers, because hundreds of students, they would have to open up the balcony. You don't never see anybody sitting in the balcony in the city council chambers. It'd be so many students. So one night the students presented the 101 demands of the Newark Student Federation to the school board. There were 101 students there, each student speaking on a different demand. And one student came up to the podium and said, you know, we would like to have the right to bring our red, black, and green flag to school, because teachers won't let us bring this flag in school. So right there on the spot, I put forward, I said, I move that students be able to bring the red, black, and green flag to school. And Jesse Jacob, who was also on the board, he said, and I would add, so that it could be an educational and teaching tool. And I said, okay, I accept the amendment. And it passed. We didn't pass, I didn't pass it by myself. It passed because it got a majority of votes on the school board. Man, the next day, all hell broke out. I'll never forget Amiri Baraka telling me he was in Tanzania at the time that happened. He was in Tanzania. He said he heard about it in Tanzania, because the way the media was playing it, the next day in the papers, in the New York Times, the Star Ledger, school board member wants to replace American flag with black flag. I mean, people can look this up right now. You take your phone out, Google it, Google HAM, H-A-M-M, and Black Liberation Flag. And some of the articles from 1971 will come up on your phone. I know this because I did it. And oh my God, my mother was sitting home watching television one day. They interrupted the programming. The associate, the vice president of public affairs. His name was Love, L-O-V-E. He was a black guy. He got on, they interrupted programming so he could get on and read this editorial condemning me for passing the resolution that students should be able to bring the red, black, and green flag to school. John Servais, who was one of the school board members, sued the board. He sued it individually. He sued the board that he was on to stop the implementation of the Black Flag Resolution. So I was getting attacked from all sides, but who came to my defense when I was under attack? The Black politicians were. To Anthony Imperiale he was in the state legislature passing resolutions condemning me. The Black politicians were attacking, some of them, not all of them, were attacking me. Who came to my defense? Amiri Baraka. He came to my defense all the time. If he didn't come to a school board meeting, the brothers and sisters from the committee from C-Fund would come down there, because I was under relentless attack. Now, Survey sued to stop, but the court ruled that it was a freedom of speech issue, and they could not stop students from bringing the red, black, and green, because I wasn't out, saying take down the American and put up the red, black, and green. I'm saying students should be able to bring this in class so they could discuss it and learn what it was all about. So all throughout that term that I was on the school board, Amiri Baraka, and the committee would defend whatever kind of progressive resolution. Like one time, I put forward a resolution that the Newark school system should celebrate African Liberation Week from May 19th, which was Malcolm X's birthday, to May 25th, which was African Liberation Day. And again, the board passed it. It was, people like I was doing this stuff. No, the board, majority of the members voted for it. And Dr. E. Alma Flagg, we got a school right in Newark now, right? Named Dr. E. Alma Flagg. She was the assistant superintendent of curriculum for the Newark school system. She wrote the African Liberation Week curriculum. So, that's just a couple of examples. But
Chairman, real quick, I'm looking at the paper. It looks like it was on the front of the New York Times.
It was on the front of the New York Times.
Yeah, it says it was all 5 members who were president, 4 Blacks and 1 Puerto Rican voted for it. And the remaining members, 3 whites and 1 Black, were not president. You had conferred with the students, and it passed that night. No. It's on the front of the New York Times. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. My mother said, Larry, why are you throwing? Because my mother was catching hell. Because my mother worked in the cleaners around the corner. And she worked for a white man that owned the cleaners. And his wife and other white people worked in that cleaners. Black people worked in there too, but it's white and black working in there. And my mother would go to work, and they would be asking my mother, why is your son doing this? And my mother would be like, Larry, why are you throwing your life away? I mean, it's something when you're trying to stand up for justice, the kind of the backlash doesn't always come from the enemy. A lot of times it comes from our own people. And sometimes it comes from people who are closest to us. And that's why you have to have a certain amount of internal fortitude to be able, you expect, and it's like fighting, right? You want to fight the guy that's in the ring with you, but you don't want to fight your mother. You don't want to fight the people in your family, but I guess that's the nature of change. But one of the highlights of my relationship with Amiri Baraka was him making it possible for me to be one of the members of the delegation from New Jersey to the National Black Political Convention in Gary, Indiana. That was really like one of the highlights. Like whenever I go back in time to remember that period, Gary stands out. I think Gary was a benchmark, transformative event, political event for Black people throughout the United States, or at least for the politically active Black people throughout the United States. And Ed, it was after I came back from Gary. Because see, I was just a kid from 12th Street in Newark, from Ridgewood Avenue and from 12th Street. My family wasn't political. My mother, I don't think she was a member of the NACP. You know, I don't remember too much talk about politics or race. My folks got up every day and went to work, came home, made sure I was well fed, well clothed, and had a roof over my head and had an education and went to school. But, you know, they weren't really political. So I hadn't been in any like real social justice. But when I went to Gary looked like a black government to me. It looked like black people coming together to control our destiny. It was like a Congress. We was in there passing resolutions on all the issues that were important to us. Right. And all the resolutions contained action items, what we were going to do. And it was after Gary that I asked Baraka to give me an African name. That was the transformative, because, you know, everybody in the committee had African names. You know, all the followers that weren't in the committee had African names. And I asked Baraka to give me an African name. And when we got back from Gary, probably by the end of March of 72, he had given me an African name. But to be a Gary was something, because all the black leaders that were still alive came to Gary, and some. Like I'd be sitting in the area where the convention was taking place, and Minister Louis Farrakhan would walk by.
Wow.
Harry Belafonte would walk, I mean, like right in front of me. Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier. I'm sitting at the stage, Malcolm's wife and Dr. King's wife, sitting up on the stage, you know, and Bobby Seale.
Right. That inspired Bobby to run for mayor.
Right. Bobby Seale, that. And I remember the night they had a cultural session in this lounge that was downstairs from where the convention was. And Bobby Seale spoke down there from the Black Panther Party. He spoke there. And Richard Roundtree, who has starred in the Shaft movie, he showed up and he spoke. Dick Gregory spoke down there. All these people I got to meet, you know, when I was at Gary, Indiana. So it was a transfiguring. I had never, maybe if I had been like active in NACP and I had gone to NACP conventions and stuff like that, maybe it wouldn't have seemed such a big deal. But I didn't have that in my life.
How old were you then? In 72?
I was 18. Yeah, 72. I was 18. I was 18 when I went to Gary. I think I was the youngest voting delegate at Gary. I believe I was the youngest voting delegate at Gary.
And so, Larry, we know that you know, was one of the big highlights of, you know, Amiri's, you know, social activism life, the 72 Gary Convention. Let's talk a little bit about Amina, right? Because people sort of forget that she was an artist in her own right at that time. And she was charged with keeping the home front, not only in terms of taking care of children, but in a very real way, keeping Amiri safe, right? So if you would, let's talk about her. And then I want to shift to Zaid, because I know from Amina directly what she feels about Zaid at this very moment of her life, and what Zaid meant to Amiri, because I was at a book signing and he didn't want to get the show started until that guy up in the corner got there. And I thought that was quite strange. I was like, well, I knew
who is he?
I know him at that time. I'm like, well, who the hell is Zaid Muhammad?
Right,
you know?
right.
And he was saying, well, until Zaid get here, we ain't knowing nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm gonna let's talk about Amina, if we will.
Well, Amina Baraka was a leader in her own right. You know, at that time, and you know, I don't want to. I'm somewhat reticent about how much to say, but suffice it to say that Amina Baraka was both supportive of Amiri Baraka and at the same time a leader in her own right. Like the organization at that time, C-Fund, had like men's division and women's division. So you could see, I mean, I don't know what the ranking was and all that stuff, but you could see, you know, in any setting that whatever Amina said, you know, that was it. You know, that's how we're going to roll. And she was a spokesperson for the organization. I saw her do interviews on various television shows at that time. Remember, we had black television. Are there any black public affairs television shows on TV now?
No.
I mean, back then we had Like It Is, we had Positively Black, we had the brother on Fox, the brother on Fox. What was the name?
It started out as a black journal and became the McCrary Report.
The McCrary Report. Go ahead, Zaid. The McCrary Report.
Don't forget Soul on Channel 13.
With Ellis Hazlett.
Yes.
Almost every station had a black public affairs show. I don't think none of them have that now. I think Here and Now is on ABC. That took the place of Like It Is after our brother Gil Noble passed away. But Amina would do interviews and stuff. There was something Barack used to have every Sunday called Soul Session, you know, and that was like, I kind of call it like the political church, you know. It was where the message was given. Mama would give the message, and Amina would speak sometime too at Soul Session. But I would see her carrying Roz. You know, I can remember that. I know he probably wouldn't like me to talk about that because he's the man now, but I remember when he was that big, you know, and she was carrying him in her arms. The encounter, if anybody was to ever ask me, name one encounter between myself and Amina Baraka that was memorable. First of all, there were many, but the one that stands out to me was the first time I went to a Kwanzaa celebration in December of 1971. Now, this was at Hekalu Mwalimu, because Baraka had more than one headquarters. He had Hekalu Umoja on High Street. Then he had Hekalu Mwalimu, Temple of the Teacher, House of the Teacher. Mwalimu was teacher, which was 13 Belmont Avenue. And I remember we were celebrating the Kwanzaa and we were coming to the end of the celebration. And Amina Baraka sang a Kwanzaa song.
Yes.
You know, and now I'm not going to try and sing it, but I tell you what the words were.
You want to know the song.
Right. Sisi Watu, Weusi Watu Wazuri, Pamoja Tutashinda. We are black.
Beautiful
and beautiful people.
Together
we will win. I will never, ever forget those words. Never. I heard it the first time 55 years ago. Ed, that was 55 years ago. Kwanzaa was created in 1966. I went to my first Kwanzaa celebration in 1971. Baraka was in large part responsible for Kwanzaa coming to the East Coast.
Right.
You know, because Karanga was in captivity, as they say. So Baraka was, you know, doing a lot of that work and helped bring Kwanzaa to the East Coast. And I remember, you know, the first Kwanzaa celebration I went to wasn't hundreds and hundreds. There might have been, I don't know, there might have been 75 people there. You know, we all stood in a circle and Amina Baraka sang that song, Sisi Watu, Weusi Watu Wazuri, Pamoja Tutashinda. We are black and beautiful people. And together we will win. Pamoja Tutashinda. Together we will win. It's so simple, yet so profound. And those words.
And forgotten.
And, well, forgotten by some, but not by me.
No,
I won't forget them.
You one of the few that actually remember.
I was there. You know, there's a movie that came out. Oh God, I can't remember the movie. You remember that movie, Ed? Came out about 4 years ago. They showed it in a drive-in theater type setting over there on Orange Street. You remember?
Yeah.
What was the name of that movie?
I forget the name of it. Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah.
Wisely. What is it?
Boomy's child. Boomy's daughter did it. Why is we Americans?
Why is we American? And Amina Baraka is featured prominently in that movie. And I really would urge people, number one, I would urge people to watch that movie in general. But in particular, Amina Baraka is featured prominently in that movie. And I think there's some things out in my mouth. You should hear them from the source, because I don't want to be convicted of misinterpretation, because Sister Baraka she's a strong sister. You deal with her, you got to come correct.
That's right.
You can't be shucking and jiving, because she will call you out. That's one thing about the Barakas, Amiri and Amina. They would call you out if you were shucking and jiving, But if people want to know more about that period, I would urge them to read Kamosi Woodard's book, Nation Within a Nation. Amiri Baraka and the Black Liberation Movement. I think that's the type. But if you just look up Nation Within a Nation, he's professor now. And I always knew Kamosi was an intellectual. From the first day that I met him, even when I was 17 years old and I went to the Hikalu, he was the brother that was always walking around with a pen or pencil behind his ear. He always had that kind of intellectual flair. And now he's a professor. He's a tenured professor, been a tenured professor probably for about 25 years now at Sarah Lawrence College.
That's right.
We're going to bring Kamosi. Pop is going to have a couple of Black History programs this month. One we're having with Professor Gerald Horn. That's going to be in the middle of the month. And the other one is going to be with Kamosi Woodard. And that's going to be at the end of the month. And, in the days ahead, I can give you the specifics. I don't have the specifics at my fingertips. But I'm blessed, because of my association with Amiri Baraka. There were two men that are responsible for placing me into the river of history. The first is Ken Gibson, who appointed me to the Newark Board of Education, because Gibson did that. He did that. That was a decision that he made. He regretted it later. I ain't gonna lie. He said, I read a newspaper article where Gibson said I was the worst appointment he ever made. Because I stayed in the news with the controversy, stayed in the newspaper. I mean, before the Black Flag thing, there was a whole controversy on me registering for the draft.
Wow.
Anthony Imperial was down in the state legislature calling on the state attorney general to investigate me for draft evasion.
Playbook they used on the by the way.
One time I was.
And so,
but somehow, go ahead, Ed.
I want to get to that second person because I want to give Zaid some time to definitely talk about them, but to talk about Amir
overtime.
Well, we are.
I'll be much more brief. I'll just say that I'm grateful for both of them in my life. I came to Amiri and Amina later because I didn't come into Newark until I became a Muslim back in the late 70s and ultimately went to Rutgers, Newark, and got involved with the Black student movement. And that's how me and Adema hooked up, right? And we brought, and then, I went to Rutgers, Newark and ran into a bunch of Amiri's Cubs, right? People like Isaac Haywood and Hodari Lee, a bunch of them who had been under Amiri for years as young people,
and what year was this, Zaid?
City State, huh?
What year was that?
I came into Rutgers 79.
Okay.
Yeah, 70. He was just coming out of Princeton, and I was just going into Rutgers. And we had a statewide coalition, New Jersey Coalition of Black Student Organizations. Remember that, Demo? Right?
That's it. You said it.
Right? Yeah. But that's when it started, but it really took a very earnest turn when I did Asada's book party, and I did Asada's first book party. They both had their own relationship with Asada in a very real, direct way before she went underground. And at the time, there were tensions between those two organizations for a minute, right? And Amiri was, and Amina were mediating elements that did not promote that. And they really loved Asada, and they loved, her comrades, When Daruba got out, I brought them back together, But when I did Asada's book party and Amina came, because first thing I did is I said, you gotta do something, And she said, you brought me back into the fold of the Black Liberation Movement. My head almost fell off when that woman told me that. Right? She had a poem, my favorite poems of all time, called "Song for the Masses." If you don't remember nothing else I ever said about Amina Baraka, the poet, remember "Song for the Masses." That is her signature piece. So I said, you gotta at least be there, whatever you want to do, Mom, but I want you to do that, And she really, really took that to heart. And that's, really what brought us together. Amiri appreciated that once, like Ademo and I left school, we continued to be activists. We continued to do stuff,
Right.
And do it along the lines of, all that we learned from it, And then when I started trying to find my voice as a poet, he opened the door for me, and that, and both of them, had been very supportive of me. Whenever I called on them, they'd come. Whenever they called on me, I'd come, all of that, but Larry's story was right at the crossroads of all that history that this town was going through. I came a little later, so I don't have all of the stories like that to tell, but I just know how personally they impacted me. I will say this, just in the interest of time, that one of the things that I was glad to be able to do was to honor Amiri while he was still with us.
Right.
67 uprising was one thing, right? But the revolutionary organizing that came out of the uprisings of 67 is another. And it just days literally after, the streets were full of our blood, we had the National Black Power Convention, Mary with the bandage on his head, right?
Right.
40 years later, I had a stool handcrafted by a craftsman in Ghana that the late, great John Watusi Branch facilitated for me. John ran the African Poetry Theater because that's where I did, my embryonic cultural work. That's what I was really developing as a poet, and later as an actor. And look at him. That's my crew at Boss. Look what the dude would just put up on the screen. That's a
picture from 1979.
Yeah,
right there. You see Can you see Hodari?
You can't miss his big.
You see him? Right? You see him? You see him?
Crew, yeah, you can't miss.
You see Joel Kroom? You see Joel Kroom's in there?
101 Washington Street. We had a building next door. Black organization of students. Next door was 103 FALA and PRO, the Federation of Latin American Students and the Puerto Rican Organization. And we did some work in them buildings for this town, for young people in this town, But when I got that stool for Amiri, when he got home, the first thing he just said, "Where's my stool?" Mina called me. He loved his stool. I said, "Good, because he deserved that. He earned that." And nobody really talks about the significance of the Black Power Conference until me, Ademo, and Junius Williams just started talking about it recently. And there's an effort right now to take down the space where the Black Power Conference took place, and we're trying to figure out how to memorialize and come up with a monument to acknowledge the fact that it was there, regardless of what they put up. So that's a conversation to pay attention to. I was trying to get Junius on this week to talk about that, and he was available. That's another conversation we need to have soon.
And so, Zaid, just talk a little bit about, if you will, some of the poetry that Amina herself was doing, right? Like, she was a poet in her own right.
Oh, well, before that, let me say this. You know, I had ties to the Black Liberation Movement in New York. And Alombe Brath was also one of my teachers. Alombe Brath and the brothers, you know, they had Ajas and you know, back then, a young Sylvia Robinson. Not Robinson. I forget what her slave name, what her last name was. I'm saying Robinson. That's not right. It'll come back to me. Right? She was one of the original Grandassa models. She's a sculptor and a dancer by training. That's before we even get to the poetry. And I mentioned Song of the Masses. That's also a book if you can find it. I don't know if it's still in print. But her last thing she did was Amina Baraka in the Red Microphone. Red being, of course, communist. Right? It's a bad jazz poetry CD that everybody should invest in who's interested in her craft. And she definitely had craft. And finally, we should appreciate her role in running what was the African Free School.
Right.
That was on its last legs when I came into Newark. Right. But that was, you know, one of her major responsibilities. And that's what trained the children in Kawaida. You know, kids were brought up in these Kawaida principles that Amiri talked about. It wasn't just December 26th to January 1st. There were real spaces like what Ademo just identified, Temple of the Teacher and the Temple of Unity, where folks really lived their lives by these principles. And that became the floor for what we now call Black Power in this country, represented by Newark, New Jersey. 100%.
You said a lot, brother. You right on target there. Right on target.
I think that without a doubt, I think that these are some of the most celebrated people in our lives in the city of Newark. You know, just in terms of, you know, the work that they put forth in our community and teaching us all about our Black selves. You know, I'll say, you know, about, you know, me being 5 and 6 years old and, you know, and playing in the Spirit House and, you know, along with Vera and Wanda and, you know, as a child and seeing Mitty and looking at, you know, particularly at Raz and, you know, when I played house, they were like my little brother-in-laws and so forth. And so as I look at that and I look back to that particular time and having joined the first organization I joined as a child I was a Super Simba. And I learned the boot dance and
Walla Walla Way Song Gate.
There you go. Right? I wore dashikis, man. When I learned all of that, right, from Amina and Amiri Baraka. And I went to a Black high school that particularly Amiri taught at, and I learned African studies at a school called it was Robert Treat before it became Marcus Garvey, under the leadership of course Eugene Campbell. And so I lived across the street from these beautiful people. And I can remember waking up every morning and looking at that house that they lived in was red, black, and green. And I learned something about my Black self every day. And I can remember as a child when they closed the street and they would let us play in the street. I can remember if any white person tried to come up that street, they would catch pure hell, because they never made it to the end of that street to get to Howard Street. Because Howard Street was at the end of that. Yeah. That street, when they closed it off, it was for Black children and Black children only. And wow. them brothers meant that, right? And I want to say I thank Amina and I thank Amiri for that being part of my history and part of my life. And I think that is where that loyalty comes from, as it relates to the entire Baraka family. Right. Yeah. I think that I can hear people say things about them, and I can see them. And I think that my level of loyalty, sort of like what you said, Larry, that night at Metropolitan Church, that if we wanted to say thank you to Amiri, the way we say that is that we vote for his son. Right. I think that my level of loyalty to the Baraka family and particularly to his children is always to look at them and say, you know, I am my Black self because of your parents. And so my level of loyalty, y'all, extends from them to y'all. And so, you know, I will always protect them in that way. And if I ever have any beef with any of them in public life, that will always be a private conversation. It will never be a public conversation. And that is me saying thank you to Amiri and Amina Baraka, right? Period. That's it. And I'm grateful for all of the Blackness that I've got. You know, it was the springboard for me as a child, and you know, and I carried that throughout my entire life. And I shared this, you know, as we close now, you know, in 2 minutes, I shared this with the mayor. I told him that you know, I had saw his mother and his father coming out of Jay's restaurant. You all might remember that restaurant.
Oh yeah, I remember Jay.
Black restaurant down on Halsey Street.
Mm-hmm. I lived right up the street from it at the Hallmark House.
Yeah, and I saw them coming out of Jay's restaurant, and I immediately got on my post. And this was at the time when gangs were running rampant in Newark, right?
Yeah.
And they came down Halsey Street. He had parked in a little garage, a little parking lot on the side, and he forgot his keys. And he had to go back to get his keys, but he left Amina by herself. And I immediately got on post. I stayed in my car and I watched her the whole time till that brother went to get his keys, came back, got in his car. They pulled off, I pulled off. I told the mayor that story. And the reason that is because I believed in my heart at that time that that brother and that sister should be able to go anywhere in the city of Newark. And that Black people everywhere need to honor those two people. That's because right. We would never be our Black selves had it not have been for those two people.
Right there, you got that right there.
And no matter what you think about their children in public life, that if nothing at all, we owe their family the level of respect, never to put their business on Front Street, but to talk to them privately and give them that level of respect because they put their lives on the line for all of us. And I happen to know because, you know, we're working on Midi Baraka's book, that I know the personal challenges that all of his children had in terms of being able to be on the front line, right? So I thank Amiri and I thank Amina Baraka for their sacrifice for Black people in the city of Newark. I'm grateful for that. And those brothers and sisters, and particularly the ones that are in public life, they'll always be my brothers. And if there's ever any disagreement I got, it will be a disagreement that I will talk to them privately about. Mm-hmm. And so I say we honor Brother Kataji Woodson for what he did, for bringing us Black History Month and us being able to celebrate our Black selves. We know that, you know, our history is more than a month, although we do it for 30 days, we highlight it, but we need to celebrate ourselves every day because of the horrors that have been paraded against us as Black people in this country. And so again, I thank Amiri and I thank Amina for the work that they've done in the city of Newark, and the fact that Black people, when we saw each other back in the day, you could ask us what time it was, and we all had enough sense to say it was nation time. And so I say that tonight. I say nation time for
nation
us.
Time.
And that's owed to Amiri Baraka and Amina Baraka. And I want to say that coming next week, we're going to celebrate another brother, Chokwe Antoine Lumumba. Right?
His new book out. His sister got a new book out.
Huh?
His sister, Shoshana, has a new book out on Chokwe.
Then we want to reach out for her.
Absolutely.
But we definitely want to next week, we want to talk about Baba Lumumba, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about his sacrifice, what he put forward. Man. And then we're going to talk about the hell that his children are catching, right? Because there's no way that Antar would be, you know, catching the hell he was if his name was not Lumumba.
That's right.
And so we want to talk about that. And that's going to be next week. But we want to say again, thank you to Amiri and Amina Baraka. And so, Donna, I'll let you close out the show. Obviously, we thank everybody that was on tonight.
Zaid, all the guests, you want to thank the guests?
We have, of course, we had Pastrami in politics. We had Alturrick, Kenney, and Rahaman Muhammad from Big Rocks Deli. We had our local delegation that went to Minneapolis for the Unitarian Church.
Reverend Anya and Donna.
Anya and my niece Donna. And of course, we just heard Adam Marshall talk about all that's going on at Delaney Hall that is not in the spotlight, but that is very consistent, very real, and very committed as we, seek to close that down and get ICE the hell up out of here for good, right? So, yeah, it was a powerful night as always. Powerful night. Powerful night.
And thank you for the people in New Jersey who made a special election primary better than normal primary. This primary, people showed up and showed out to the point
Yes,
we
they did.
we can't even call a candidate yet. So keep voting like this, New Jersey, and things will put us in a different space than we are. Everybody needs to continue to participate, as Reverend Anya and Ghana said to us. We have to participate. But as we look now, looks like Analia is still in lead. So let's keep watching to see what happens.
Right on, right on.
Right on.
All right, y'all. We thank y'all for tuning in, and thank y'all who decided to stay a little longer with us tonight. We appreciate
special extended edition of All Politics Are Local.
That's right, a special edition. So thank y'all for listening to All Politics Are Local. Of course, we are America's #1 political radio.
#1.
All right, we'll catch y'all. Where's Zaid?
In the whirlwind.
Catch y'all in the whirlwind.